Hello and welcome to the complete Godot course for intermediates. My name is William and I'm going to be your instructor for this course. I've been developing games for a very long time, but I absolutely love teaching others how to create games even more. In this course, you will be taking your Godot skills to the next level. We will be creating more complex games in Godot, such as a Tycoon farming game, where you will learn how to save data and calculate time in between game sessions. You will also learn how to create a mining RPG, where you will learn how to design scenes with tile map layers, create a character selection page, and allow players to upgrade their character stats. In the final project, you will be creating a classic tower defense game, where you will learn how to create 3 different tower types, and then drag and drop them on platforms to help defend against incoming enemy waves. You will also be given a bonus lesson, where you will learn how to connect a Godot project to GitHub to commit changes, add collaborators, and create public pull requests. Now without further ado, let's jump right in and begin the course. In this first project, we're going to go ahead and create a farming tycoon game. Not only will you be able to create multiple animal types, but also train the animals to create you more coins over time. With saving capabilities added, your coin value will be saved if you leave the game and come back. Lastly, we will be adding code to collect the time since last played, so we can calculate the amount of coins you gained while away from the game. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and set up our project. We're going to start off by creating a new project with the name Tycoon Farm. Then we're going to go ahead, navigate to where we can download all the free assets we're going to use for this game. I will attach this link in the description. Then we're going to go ahead, import those assets into our new game art folder. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and create our project. We're going to be doing this in the Godot Engine Product Manager. We're going to go up to the top left to the create button right over here. Go ahead, select that. Let's give our project a name. This is going to be Tycoon Farm. Make sure you have it in the correct location you want to save it in. You can leave everything else the same, and then just go ahead and hit create and edit. Alright, once your new project has opened up, it's going to have that 3D view here. Let's go ahead and select into the 2D view though. Now, one thing we need to do is create our art folder. So right over here on the left, we're going to right click on our rest folder, create new folder, and just simply type in art and OK. Awesome. Alright, so far so good. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and download all the game assets we're going to be using. Now I found a really good one. This one's called Island Farm Builder. It's created by Penzilla, and you can locate it at itch.io. I'm going to attach this link to the description, so go ahead, select that link, and you'll be brought to this page. Now we're going to have a lot of different assets we can use, such as a bunch of different animals and animal skins, which is going to be great for this farm style game. We're also going to get a couple ground ones, and also some ones for the fencing as well. Alright, awesome. Now go ahead, select this download now, and it is name your own price if you want to. So if you want to give them some money, you can, but if not, you can simply select the no thanks, just take me to the downloads. So go ahead, select that. You're going to get 2 options here. One is going to be the source files.zip, the other is going to be the sheets.zip. Go ahead and select this one here, the sheets.zip, and start that download process. Alright, once you have that download complete, you should have a sheets.zip right here in your downloads. Go ahead, right click on it, and select extract all. Once you select extract all, it'll start the process. Once it's done, you're going to simply get this other folder here just called sheets without the .zip. So now go ahead, select that sheets without the .zip, drag and drop it into our project, specifically the art folder here. We might have to redrag it if it doesn't go in right away. If it doesn't, just simply drag and drop it into the art folder, open it up, and we should have all of our assets here. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so far so good. Alright, in this section, we're going to do some planning for our Tycoon farm game. We're going to start off by inspecting a visual of the project goal. Then we're going to go ahead and review the possible scripts that will be needed to make the game work. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and start our planning session for our Tycoon farm game. I've created a little visual here on the top portion that we can visualize the type of game we're going to be creating. Starting with this middle screen here, this is going to be our start screen of the game. Inside we have little A's here within circles. These are going to represent the animals that are going to be randomly walking around and generating us coins. We're also going to be able to force the generation of coins by selecting anywhere in the screen as well. On the upper portion we have this nice little banner here, which is going to be centered with a 0. That's going to show us all the coins we have currently. We're also going to have a store button and a training button as well. Once you select the store button, you're going to get this store page where you're going to have the option to purchase a random animal or a specific animal in the choose page. Now these buttons are also going to have locks on them because we don't want to allow a player to purchase an animal until he has enough money. All right. Once you select the choose button though, you're going to have a couple options here such as animal 1, animal 2, or animal 3. Now do note each of these buttons also have a small back button on the top left corner just in case the player does not want to purchase an animal. On the right, we're going to have the training page here. This page is going to have a couple things in it such as an upgrade 1, upgrade 2, and upgrade 3. Each of these upgrades are going to help upgrade the stats of our current animals and generating coins ability. All right, awesome. And there's also a back button there as well. Down below here, I described a couple scripts we're going to be making, such as a UI manager script, which is going to handle all the navigation buttons and signals when purchase buttons are hit. We're also going to have a tap boost area that handles the effects that happen when the screen is tapped manually and the player gains coins. Another one is going to be the global values. This is going to be the location of all the shared values and handles the coin calculations for when the player is not in the game, because we want to have the ability for the game to basically look like it's keep running even when we're not playing the game, which is a pretty cool concept in the Tycoon games. Then we're also going to have an animal manager, which handles the animal functions as a whole and regenerates them on game open. Last but not least, we're also going to have an animal script that handles the individual animal functions such as coins and movement. Now, one of the big goals for this project is going to be to learn how to save data, which we're going to be focusing a lot on in the global values script. And you're going to see how we do that, which is pretty cool, I think. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, in this section, we're going to create the main scene. We're going to start off creating the main scene with a node. Then we're going to go ahead and set the correct screen size for our game. This type of game is going to be a mobile game, so we need to make sure it's set for that. Then we're also going to add some art for the ground and fence in the main scene. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is create our main scene node. So we can simply do that by going to the left over here to this 2D scene. If we select that, it'll give us a basic node 2D. Let's change the name though. I'm going to type in capital M, main, capital S, scene. All right, let's hit enter there. Perfect. So now this main scene is going to have a lot of stuff for our game in it, but for now we can leave it that. Next thing we need to do is of course readjust our screen size, because the current size we have is best fit for a PC style game, and this one's going to be more of a mobile style, so we need to adjust that. To do that, we simply go ahead to Project Settings. Then in the general search bar here, go ahead and type in W, and you should see Display and then Window right under it. Select the window, and you're going to get a bunch of different options here. The ones we're going to be messing with is the viewport width and the viewport height. Let's go ahead and change the viewport width first. This one here is going to be 720. 720, enter. There you go, perfect. The viewport height is going to be 1280 and hit enter. Perfect. Go ahead, hit close. Let that load for a second and it'll readjust. And there we go. If we back up our screen, we can now see that our new screen size is more like this, which represents a phone. Awesome. All right, next thing we need to do, of course, is just save everything. You can simply do that by holding down Control S, which will save. It's going to ask you if you want to save it in your main directory, which is fine. So go ahead and just hit the save, and there we go. Perfect. All right, so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and create the background and the fencing for the game. So in the main scene, we're going to right click on it, add child node. We're going to add a node 2D, and we're going to rename that node background. All right, inside the background, we're going to add some grass. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node, and we're going to be using a color rect for this. So let's go ahead, create color rect. Let's rename that grass. Awesome. Now for the grass, let's use the pointer tool and go ahead and stretch this out as far as the screen goes. So something like that. Perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it has to be covering on both sides. Awesome. All right, now for the grass, let's go ahead and change the color to match a grass color. So I'm going to move the blue over here and then go to the green. And this is a little bright for grass, so I'm simply going to drag this down a little bit. Something about that doesn't need to be the exact same, but I think this will look pretty good. Awesome. Next thing we're going to do is add a little darker grass pieces inside of this. So let's go ahead, right click on grass, add child node, do another color rect, and let's go ahead and make this a little smaller. So in the inspector, selecting the new color rect, go to layout, transform. Let's go ahead and change the scale to 0.2, enter, and it will go ahead and match the X and Y to that because we have the match selected right here. Perfect. Now let's also go ahead and change this color. I'm going to move over the blue and then to the green, and I'm just going to make sure this is a little bit darker than the current one we have. Let's go ahead and move this somewhere into the middle with the move tool so we can see how it looks. Select something else, and there we go. I think that looks pretty good. I like it. So let's select that color rect we have there and simply just duplicate it all over the map. So let's go ahead, Control D, move it over, Control D, move it over, Control D, over, Control D, and just keep going until you cover all over the place. Awesome. Doesn't need to match mine exactly. Just needs to look like it's not just a plain green square anymore. Let's keep adding a couple more. Not too many, just enough to make it look more realistic. Awesome. All right, scroll on up over here. Let's close the main grass. Select somewhere else. Perfect. Looks pretty good. I like it. All right, next thing we need to do is add all the fence. So let's go ahead, go to background, right click on background, add child node. We're going to do another node 2D. And we're going to go ahead and simply call this fences. Perfect. Now inside of fences, we're going to go ahead, right click, add child node, and we're going to go ahead and add a tile map layer for this. Now we haven't used this yet, but this is a great choice to help build our maps. We're not going to be going in depth in this current project, but in the next project we're going to go over it a lot more. For now, we're just going to use it as a simple holder for our current fences. All right, so selecting tile map, we need to change a couple things first. First thing we need to do is we need to go to the tile set, and because it's empty, we need to create a new, so select new tile set. There we go. Awesome. Next thing we need to do is, because the current size of our fences that we're going to be putting in here are going to be a little small, I think a good size scale that we're going to set is going to be 6 for X and 6 for Y. So go ahead and make sure that's set as well. You can change it if you want to, but I think this will look pretty good. Next up is the texture. We want to make sure it's nice and clean. So instead of the inherit one, we're going to do the nearest one. All right, awesome. Perfect. Now that we have all those settings set, we can go into the actual thing down here. Now we currently have tile set, tile map. We can't use a tile map until we have a tile set selected. So in tile set, we need to simply drag and drop the current art we want to use. So let's open up our art folder, our sheets folder, and then go ahead, scroll on down until you find the fence.png. Simply drag and drop it into this box here. It'll ask you if you want to create a new one, select yes, and there we go. It'll also go ahead and cut everything accordingly, which works out pretty well. Perfect. Awesome. So now we have this set. We don't need to change anything in here. And just remember, we're going to go over a lot more of these settings in the next project. But for now, we just want to keep things nice and simple. So let's go to the tile map now. And now we have this fence.png here. Everything's selected. Perfect. Now we have a bunch of different tools we can use here. We have our move tool, which is kind of like our pointer tool also. We also have the paint tool. We have line tools, square tools, and then just bucket tools. Once you select these, it's also going to ask you if you want to select a picker here or an eraser. Now to use either or, make sure you have only one selected, not both. So let's go ahead and actually start painting our tiles. So let's select the paint tool here, deselect the bucket tool, and instead select the paint tool here. Perfect. Now we're going to want to make a nice little fence around our current green grass we have here. So let's go ahead and select the ones we want. I think the best ones are going to actually be the ones down here, because we can have the bottom parts here which aren't going to match up because there are none here, just a gate and then an open area. which isn't going to look very good for the kind of game we're making. So let's go ahead and do the corner pieces first. Let's select this corner piece here, and then simply go ahead, make sure we're pointed in here. Then we can simply going to go ahead and drag and drop it just like that. Perfect. So now we have a nice little corner piece there. Let's do the other corner pieces. This one here, I'm actually going to put here. We can readjust the actual location of our tile map later, but for now, I think this will work. So then we're also going to go ahead and do some corner pieces as well. I think another good one would be these ones here. So let's select that one there. Let's put it right, let's do it there. Or actually, you know what? We might want to go a little lower. Now, if we put one in the wrong spot that we don't want, there's two ways we can move it or get rid of it. We can simply select the move tool and simply drag and drop it, just like that. We can also go ahead and select the paint tool and also the eraser tool, and then just simply erase it if we wanted to as well. Now I'm going to go back to the paint tool, deselect the eraser tool, select the one we want, and simply go ahead and put it there. Perfect. Let's do the other one now. Let's do it right there. Awesome. And now we just need to use the actual across ones and the up and down ones. So let's go ahead and add those. Let's do the across ones first. I think a good across one would be one that has two legs. So one of these or these, it's up to you. I think the longer ones will look better. Let's use the actual box tool for this one. This one's pretty cool. We can simply go ahead and drag it like that. And there we go. Awesome. Let's do the next ones down here. I'm going to use these ones here, and I'm simply going to drag these ones. Perfect. Now we need the up and down ones, and I think the ones right here are going to be pretty good. So I'm going to select this one here, simply drag it up, and there we go. Let's do another one on this side. Simply drag it up, and there we go. Awesome. Now there's many different ways you could have made this fence. You could use different styles if you wanted to. That's completely up to you, but I think this one works pretty well for what we got. Now we need to actually center this, and as you can tell, it's a little too much to the left, and I don't think it's in the center as much. So we can go ahead and select the actual tile map itself, use the move tool, and simply just move it into the center. So I'm going to have it a little bit more down because we're going to have some nice UI buttons on the top. So I'm going to do something like that. You can adjust it more if you want to, but I think this will look pretty good for what we're making. All right, awesome. All right, go ahead, save that, Control S. Perfect. So far, so good. All right, in this section, we're going to create the UI nodes. We're going to start off by creating the main UI node. Then we're going to go ahead and create a UI banner image. Then on that image, we're going to add two buttons, one for the store and the other for the train. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's get started. So let's go ahead and create that main node for our UI. Let's go ahead, right click over here on main scene, go to add child node, and simply type node 2D. Select that. Perfect. Let's go ahead now and rename the node 2D. We're going to call this UI. There we go. Now for the UI, we're going to go ahead and create another node 2D inside of this. Let's go ahead, select that, and we're going to rename this one now banner. Perfect. All right, for our banner, we're going to need a couple things in, such as an image so we can showcase where the banner is, and then of course the buttons for the store and the train. So let's go ahead and create those now. Let's right click on banner, add child node. We're going to go ahead and do a color rect. Awesome. And I'm simply going to go ahead and just stretch this out all the way. Let's do it something like this. Perfect. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. All right. Now for this, I'm simply going to make this the background color. So let's go ahead and rename this. Let's just call this color back. There we go. I'm going to change this to black. So I'm going to move the color all the way down. Perfect. Let's go ahead and duplicate this color black. Control D. Let's change this. We're going to call this color inside. There we go. Make the I capital there. Awesome. Now this one here, we're going to make it a little bit smaller. So we can simply go to the actual scaling of it and do it that way, or you can use the little tool we have. That's up to you. I'm going to go to Layout, Transform, Now I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. So I'm not going to move the position, but I'm going to make the scale a little smaller. So we could do 0 point, and let's try 0.9 and see how that looks. No, it doesn't look like that'll be good. So we might need to use the tool instead. So to do that, first let's change the color that we want. I'm going to change the color to a kind of like a light blue. So I'm going to go to blue, and then maybe a little light for the teal. And maybe if we gray it a little bit, we could do something like that for the UI color. I like it. And the next thing we can do is zoom in a little bit over here. I'm going to hold down the control key and just move this over a little bit. There we go. And let's make it about the same size as the pixel length, which is about that. Doesn't need to be perfect, but we just want to make it pretty similar. Perfect. And get a little closer over here. And I think that looks pretty good for what we're working with. I like it. Maybe this one's a little bit too big on this side, so we can go ahead, just move that over a little bit. Awesome. All right, perfect. I think that looks pretty good for our outline. I like it. Let's save that, Control S. Let's hit the play button. Let's select the current scene for this. Select current. And yep, there we go. I like the top banner. I think it looks pretty good. Awesome. I'm going to close that. All right. Next up, we're going to go ahead and add those buttons now. So we can do that pretty easily. We're going to create them inside the banner itself. So we're going to right click, add child node. We're going to give it another node 2D. And we're going to change this node to store button. Perfect. And these store buttons and train buttons are going to be just kind of mini versions of this UI here. Maybe we could tint the blue color to make it stand out a little bit more, but that's completely up to you. So let's go ahead inside this store button now. We're going to right click, add child node. We're going to do a color rect. There we go. We're going to call this color back. This is going to be the black outline for that button. So color back, just like that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and make this black. There we go. Now we need to, of course, scale it to how big we want the button to be. I'm just going to simply move it over. And let's say we want the buttons to be about this big. You can adjust it if you want to, but I think this will work good for what we're doing. And I'm going to put this somewhere in the middle, like that. Perfect. I might make it a little bigger, actually. Let's see how that looks if we get a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to move this, make sure we got it kind of in the middle. Doesn't need to be perfect. There we go. All right, awesome. All right, now we need the inside color, so it's simply gonna select color back, Control D. Let's change the name. We're gonna call this color inside. There we go. Let's go ahead, change the color. I'm going to just change the color to another kind of blue. Maybe we'll make it a little darker. Make it a little more blue color, less purple. I think that looks pretty good if we do it like that, though. I like it. Maybe a little darker instead. So what if we go a little higher? Make it similar, and then we darken it a little bit. Like that. Perfect. I like that a lot better. Awesome. All right, now that we have that there, now we need to, of course, shrink it a little bit. So let's use the pointer tool. Let's shrink the colors a little bit, just so we have a nice little outline of it. I like it. Make sure it looks pretty good. Doesn't need to be perfect. Awesome. I think that looks really good. Yep, I love it. All right, so now we need the actual text inside this button. Let's go ahead, right click on store button, add child node, and we can go ahead and just add a label to do this. Pretty simple. Let's move this though inside and simply stretch it somewhere like that. Perfect. All right, now we need to see the text. We might need to fix it, so we can go and put store in here. Let's go ahead on label settings. Let's select that, new label settings, select it again. Now we can go ahead and change the size of the font. Let's go ahead and change that to, let's see what 30 looks like. Maybe a little bigger than that. Let's try 40. That looks pretty good, I think. All right, next up, we can give it an outline. I think a black outline will match everything pretty well. Let's do that. So let's change the color of the outline to black instead of white. Then let's go ahead, select the size of it. Let's try 10. Might need to make it more thick. I think it looks pretty good if we back up. Yep, that looks pretty good. All right, now we need to, of course, center this text. So let's go ahead, go to the alignment options down here, change that horizontal line to center, and then also vertical alignment to center as well. And perfect, our button's looking pretty good. Now we need to add one more thing to this button though, and that's the actual button node, so we can give it an actual function when we select it. So let's go on the store button right here, add child node, and just simply type in button. And we're going to move that over. And we can simply go ahead and take the whole thing there and just stretch it out over the entire button. As you can see though, it's darkened out and we don't really want that. So we can fix that simply by going to, I think it's in theme, and you see theme is empty, select, oh, not that one, I'm in the wrong one. Type variation, select flat button right there, okay? Select that and there we go, perfect. Now we can actually see it, I like it. Now when we select it though, it will change it to white. We might need to change that later for our button functionalities, but for now I think it'll be okay. So let's keep that at store. All right, and of course we need to rename this button because when we eventually add a signal connecting to this button to make it do something, we don't want it to just be named button. We want it to be named whatever it is. So we could do button, and we could say open store because this button is going to open the store. All right, awesome. Perfect, so now we have our store button. And to make our train button that opens the training area, we simply can go ahead and just duplicate this button, Control D, change the name of it. So instead of store button, this will be a train button. Get rid of that 2 at the end. Perfect. And simply change this button open store. Instead of open store, we can just say open train. Awesome. And what we can do is we can just simply move it over. Oopsie, make sure we're moving over the main node, not the button one right there. So we can move that over. Make sure it looks pretty similar. We can adjust it later on if we want to, but I think that is actually perfect. Awesome. Let's go into the actual label and change this to train. Perfect. I like it. Looks good. We have that changed. Awesome. All right. Now we just need one more thing, and that's going to be the placeholder text for our money, which is going to be in the center of these 2 buttons right here. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's create a node for this. So we're on the, on the banner, we're going to right click, add child node. We're going to do another node 2D. We can call this coin count. And in coin count, we're simply just going to add a label, and because I think the size of this text will match the label, we can just simply copy one of those labels. So I'm going to Control D on the label there, drag and drop it into coin count. Perfect. Close that up there. And what I'm simply going to do is move the label right in the middle. Let's see how that looks. Let's change this to 0. Or not, there we go, 0. Now I think it might be cool if we change this into a color. So we might not actually keep the same label settings. We might need to give it a new one, because if I go into label settings here and go to color and change this to yellow, it's going to change all of it to yellow, which I don't think it looks very good. So let's Control Z to go back, or just move it back to white. There we go. Let's go ahead and give it a new label setting by right clicking on the current one and do new label settings. There we go. Go to font. Let's change that. I think we did 40. Did we do 40? Let's double check that. We did 40, yes. All right, I'm gonna close that there. So we have 40 for that, and then I think we have 10 for the size here. Change that color to black. Perfect. Still doesn't look very good to me. Maybe we didn't do 10 for that. Let's double check that. We did 19 for that, okay. Makes more sense. 19. All right, let's go ahead now and change the actual color of this one to yellow. Perfect. Now I still don't think it's in the right, I wonder if I go down a little bit, if it's gonna look better. Nope, I think it is right in the perfect spot. All right, awesome. let's select away here. Let's go ahead, and you know what? Let's change the name of this to coin text. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead, close that. Close this one here. All right, I like it. I don't know if it's centered perfectly though. Let's hit play and see how that looks. And there it is. I like it. I might actually make that text a little bigger. I don't like how small it is, so let's go ahead, go back here. Let's go into coin count text. Because we made it its own label setting, we can adjust this one. It won't affect the others. Let's change this to 60. I like that a little better. And we will increase the size of this. Let's change this instead of 19. Maybe we could do like 21. There we go. And simply move this up a little bit because we want to make it centered. I think that'll look pretty good. Like that. There we go. You can play around with that if you want to, but I like that a little better. Kind of signifies that this is more important than these two over here, which I like. Awesome. All right, looking good so far. All right, go ahead, save that. All right, in this section, we're going to create the store UI. We're going to start off creating the main UI node for the store and the choose page. We're also going to go ahead and create a title and buttons for the store page and another title and buttons for the choose page. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to create the store page first. So in the UI, not inside the banner, we're going to right click on the UI, add child node. We're going to do another node 2D. And this one here, we're going to change this to store page. All right. Store page, we're going to add a couple things. First thing we're going to add, we're going to right click, add child node. We're going to add a panel, which will just darken out the background screen a little bit. So let's stretch that out all the way to cover the entire screen. Perfect. I think that should be good. Might need to move this over just a little bit because I remember the screen is this and this part here is not part of the screen. So we can keep it as that. Awesome. Then let's go ahead and we're going to create the UI for the page, and we want it to be pretty similar to this one here. So what we could do is we could just duplicate this and just move it into here. So inside the banner, we're going to go ahead, we're going to take the color back and color inside, Control D, and then Control D also on the color inside. Now select the color back 2 right here, and then hold down the Control key, and then select the inside 2 one here. And there you go, you have both of them. You can release the Control key and simply drag and drop them into our store page. And there we go. Now we're inside here. Let's get rid of the 2's in here, because that doesn't matter. Oh, just the 2, not the whole thing. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and stretch this out to where we want it. So let's do the color back first. I'm going to go ahead and just move this down a little bit. And let's do something like here. And then let's go ahead, let's thin it out a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Let's move it over. Make sure it's centered. It looks pretty centered to me. We might need to move it eventually, but I think it's okay for now. Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's go ahead and stretch it out pretty far down. Let's do something like that. There we go. Maybe a little higher up. Perfect. Let's do the color inside part. Let's go ahead, bring this down a little bit. Remember, we want to zoom in a little bit just so we can see and make sure it kind of matches the pixel height of what we want. There we go. Let's use the pointer tool now. Move this over here. Perfect. Move this over here. Make sure it's pretty similar, if not the same. There we go, I like it. Let's see, does that one look about the same? I think this one looks a little bigger over here, so I might move it over. There we go. All right, now let's move this down all the way. And let's see if that matches with that. I think so. Awesome. And you can adjust this however you want, but I think this looks pretty good. Awesome. All right, now that we have the actual background part, now we need to add some buttons and text in here. So let's go ahead and let's add some new ones. So let's go ahead, right click, store page, add child node, and let's add a label actually first. It tells us where we are. It's a pretty important one. Let's move this down here, over here, and let's stretch this out. Let's do something like this. Awesome. Make sure it is centered. I don't think this is. Let's see. I need to use the move tool. See how that looks. Pretty good. Then we're going to go down a little bit because we're going to have a back button up here. But actually, maybe we can keep it where it is and simply just keep the text more in the center. I think that might be pretty good. There we go. All right, inside of here, let's type in what text we want, such as store. There we go. Let's center everything up. And actually, I think I'm going to keep it at top. Let's give it a new label setting. Let's go ahead, change the font. Instead of 40 like the other one, let's try like 70. There we go. Maybe a little bigger actually, maybe 80. Awesome. Let's go ahead, outline, and instead of what we did 19, let's try 30. Change this to black. Maybe a little smaller. I don't like how big that is. Maybe let's try 28 for that. Perfect. All right, I like it. We have our store, and we can just change the name of this to label header. There we go. Awesome. Next thing we need to do is, of course, add the buttons and then the amount we need to pay per button. So let's go ahead, store page, add child node. Let's do a node 2D. This will be the back button actually first. So let's call this back store. There we go. Or we could do back button store. Or back store button. There we go. That makes more sense. All right, then we're going to go ahead and do what we did now with the background colors. So we need to go ahead, hold down the control key, select both of them, release control key, or actually even before you select that, you can control D while still holding down control key. Simply drag and drop those guys right inside of there. And let's go ahead and create the button size for the back button. This one's going to be pretty small. So let's go ahead and shrink the blue one first. Let's find the blue one, which is this one. Let's get rid of the 2's as well. All right, let's move this up. And let's move this over. Maybe a little smaller. Not that small. Zoom in a little bit so we get a little more control. There we go. And this one here, let's go ahead. Move that down and move that up. Move that over. Go over a little bit. Down a little bit. And over and down. I think it looks pretty good. I like it. I'm going to move the button though a little bit away from the corner so the two don't blend. Something like maybe that looks pretty good. Yep. And don't forget, this is actually a different color. We can actually get that exact color from our other buttons. So let's go ahead for these in the store button and the inside color. Select that. We can copy the hex number right here. So let's copy that. Let's go into our store button over here. I'm going to close that. We don't need that open anymore, which is this one here. And simply go ahead and paste that in. Hit enter, and there we go. Awesome. All right, perfect. Now we just need the text for it. So we can go ahead and create a new text for that because we don't want to use the label header one because it's a lot bigger. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node, do label, and let's bring that down, move that over. Let's stretch this out to meet the button size. There we go. There we go, a little up. All right, now in this, simply go ahead, type in back. Let's center all that up. There we go. Give it a new setting. Let's go ahead, increase that a bit. Let's see what 20 looks like. Not big enough. Let's try 50. Too big. I think 40 or 35 will look pretty good. Let's try 35 first. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Let's try 40. I like 40. All right, and then of course we want to give it an outline. Change it to black so we can see it. Change the pixel size. Let's try 5. Too small. Let's change that to 20 then maybe. Too big. Let's try 15. Perfect. Awesome. All right, there's our back button. I like it. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now, of course, we need to add an actual button to this though. So let's go ahead. We're going to right click on the back store button, add child node, B for button. And then we need to give this a specific name, button back store. Just name it the same thing, that's fine. There we go. Awesome. And of course we need to make sure it is in the correct location. So I'm going to go ahead, move it over there. Let's stretch it out to cover the entirety of the button. And there we go. Awesome. Remember the one setting we need to change? That's going to be in the theme. It's going to be type variation down here. Select that and flat button. Awesome. All right, perfect. I like that. Looking better. All right, now that we have the back store button, now we need the actual buttons for the things we can purchase, which I'm going to do a button for a random animal, and then we have a button for a custom animal. Each one of those is going to have an amount above it. So let's create those real quick. So let's go ahead, close that one up. We're going to right click, add child node. This one's going to be another node 2D. Let's go ahead. Actually, not. We don't need to move it. Let's rename it though. So this one here, we could just call this random button. All right, right click on it, add child node, and we're gonna go ahead and before we do that, let's actually use the same backgrounds as the back store button. So we're gonna go ahead, hold down control, select both of them, control D, and then just drag and drop them into random button. Perfect. Awesome. Change the names, get rid of those 2s. Let's use the color back. Let's go ahead, bring that down. And I think we should keep it somewhat in the middle, but not too much. So let's go ahead and do there. And we're gonna make this a little bigger than the one we have for the back button. So let's try, see how something like that looks maybe. There we go. Make sure it matches up over here. And I think that looks pretty good. Perfect. Then we need to, of course, move this down and center it up. There we go. Simply make it a little bigger. Move that over, down a little bit. Perfect. Love it. All right. Now we need the text for it. So let's go ahead, create a custom text for this one, I think. So let's go ahead, random button, add child, there we go. Let's go ahead and do a label. All right. Let's move that down as well. And of course we want to make it the same size as the button. So let's add that there, perfect. Inside of here, we're gonna do random. Let's go ahead, center that up. And let's go ahead, label settings. Let's go ahead, make this a little bigger. Let's see what 60 looks like here. Maybe a little bigger than that. Let's change that to, let's see if we do 80. 80 is okay. And we can keep the color. Outline though, let's give it an outline. Change it to black. Let's go ahead, add a size for that. And I think we're gonna have to do something like 30. Yeah, 30 would be pretty good. Awesome. So we have random there, perfect. Now we need one more set of text, and that's gonna be the actual cost for random. And we can do that pretty easily by just duplicating a label up there. We can go ahead, change this to label cost so we know which one it is. And we're going to simply drag this up here. We could do something like that. And we're going to go ahead, give it a new label setting because I don't think it needs to be the same size of that. Or maybe we could keep it like that, but we do need to change it though because we're going to have the color match like the color of our money, which is right up here. So still, let's go ahead, give it a new label setting. Let's go ahead. We're going to make that the same size, which was 80. And then I think for the outline, we did 30. Color was black. Perfect. Let's go ahead, change the actual color of the text itself to gold or yellow. And we're going to change this to the cost that we want to make it. And I think a good cost, at least for testing, we can keep it at like $10. So let's do that. Perfect. I like it. All right. Now that we have our button here, we need to give it the actual button node. So let's go ahead, random button, add child node, type in button. Oop. There we go, add that there. And now, of course, we need to make sure that's on the right area. So let's go ahead, cover the entire button. And over again here. What we're going to do is we're going to simply make this a name specific to this button. So button by random. Perfect. Then we are also going to go ahead in the settings of the button by random. We need to make it a flat button type. So go to theme and then simply change the type variation to flat button. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. Now, one more thing we need to do is we need to create a lock button for this one because remember, we don't want to always be able to buy this when we don't have enough money. So a simple way we can do that, and of course show that we can't buy it still, is simply have a button that overlaps it that we can turn on and off depending on how much money we have. All right, so let's go ahead and add that button lock. So I'm going to simply select random button, Control D, and I'm just going to change the name here to lock at the end of it. Perfect. And the only thing we're going to change in here is, of course, the name. We don't want to have this. We're going to change it to lock. And then we're going to go ahead, change the inside color, this one here, to something a little more red that signifies that we cannot select it. All right, perfect. And we could even go ahead and change the text if we wanted to as well, just to signify that we don't have enough money. So we could go ahead and just say locked. Or you know what? I think an even better way to do this would keep random and simply, we could just actually make this whole thing look like it's like grayed out. And we can simply do that by going back to the color itself, the inside color. We could roll it back. Oops, we might need to actually select the old color. Let's select that, copy that, paste the inside color back on there, and actually go to the button by right here and just change the theme back to the original, which was set to nothing. And I think we can change the color of this as well if we go to visibility and set self modulate to like a red. That kind of looks like it is not available. Perfect. I like that a little better because it kind of still shows what we can buy, but it's locked. All right, I like that. Awesome. All right, perfect. I think that is good for that one. And now what we need to do is create the next button, which is going to be for the choose, which is going to let us basically choose our own animal for a higher price instead of a random one. So we can go ahead and add that. It's going to be pretty easy. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. And what we can do is simply take that random button here, Control D. We're going to go ahead, change the name. Instead of random button 2, we're going to change it to choose button. Perfect. What we can do also is move it down a little bit. So let's go ahead, take that button, move it down, and simply have it something like that. I like it. What we can also go ahead and do is go inside of it, change the label. Instead of random, we're going to do choose. And then also the cost, we want to increase the cost. Let's change that to 30. Perfect. We also need to change the name of the button, because remember, we're going to have to use this for when we add a signal to it. So button by, we're going to do button by choose. Perfect. I like it. All right, we have choose button. I like everything in here. Perfect. Now we need to add an actual lock. And just to keep things a little more organized, we can simply move that random button lock above the choose one. We're not putting it inside of any of them, but I want them like kind of next to each other like this. It's very important though that we have the random button lock in front of the random button, because when this is activated, it's not going to allow us to click this random button. But when it's deactivated, then we can go ahead and click that random button. All right, awesome. I'm going to reactivate that. So now we need to make the lock button for the choose button. So let's go ahead, Control D. Perfect. Let's go ahead and make this a lock right here. Awesome. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply change what we did for the last one. We're going to open that up. We're going to go to the actual button itself, change the name of this one to lock. There we go. Let's double check that we did that also in the button lock over here, which I think we did. Yep, perfect. I'm going to close that. All right, for this one here, if you remember, the only thing we have to change is the setting and then the color. So let's go ahead, go down to the theme, change the type back to the original. Then we're going to go ahead and make the visibility self-modulate a little bit more red, just like that. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. Okay, now let's go ahead, close that up. Let's save that, Control S. All right, so now we need to make the actual choose screen, because it's going to be like another page, but luckily we can just simply duplicate this page and change what we need. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and simply duplicate. Which one are we duplicating? I think we're just going to duplicate the store page entirely. So we can do that. Let's go ahead, Control D. So now we should have store page 2. Let's change this to choose page. So let's go ahead, choose page. Perfect. Let's go ahead and change the header. Instead of store, we're going to change this to choose, which we might. Nope, looks like it fits good. I was worried this was going to get too close to the back button, but I think it looks pretty good like that. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to make it look like we can choose a specific animal, and I'm simply just going to move the text over and then put an animal right over here so we can have them outlined together. And let's see if we can fit it all with the text. We might need to shrink some things like the cost. Actually, you know what? We don't need to have the cost, because if you remember, we're going to have this button here. So it's going to actually not allow us to go into this next page unless we have a specific amount of money. All right. Let's go back into the choose page. All right. Let's go ahead now and let's get rid of some things, or at least adjust some things. We're not going to need any lock buttons in here because we already have a locked button for the page before. So we can go ahead and remove those lock buttons. I'm going to close everything up just so we can see things a little better. All right, let's remove the lock buttons. We don't need this one here. Remove that. We also don't need the random lock button. Remove that as well. And just to make things easier, let's start off with one button. So I'm going to remove that one there. Awesome. So we can keep everything the same up here. The only thing we need to change, of course, is the button back store. We need to change that. Instead of the store part, we're going to do back choose, because that's where we're coming from originally. Perfect. So in case we change our mind, we can simply hit back here and go back to the store page. Awesome. Let's go into the random button we have here. Let's change this one. Let's call this cow button, because this one's going to be able to allow us to select a cow. So let's go ahead and go into the cost. We don't need that anymore. Let's delete that. Perfect. Now for the actual label here, let's change that to cow. And I'm simply going to go ahead and instead of centering this, let's go ahead and make this to the left, just like that. Perfect. We might need to add a space before that just so it has a little bit of room. Perfect. But we can keep it as is. Awesome. We also need to go ahead, change the actual button name here. So button by random, we're going to change that to button by cow. Okay. Awesome. Now we need to add the actual cow sprite in here so the player knows what they're buying. So in the cow button, we're going to right click, add child node. We're going to add a sprite 2D. Then we're going to move it right over here. Let's add the actual sprite now. So if we go ahead into our folders, art, sheets, we should see our animals, farm animals. So let's simply drag and drop that into our sprite 2D. Now we're going to have to adjust this because we don't want all the animals, of course. So let's go ahead, zoom in here a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and just get that first cow there. So let's simply go ahead into animation. Let's go to frames. So let's see if we can make this correct. We just need to get one singular animal, which should be 6 for H frames. And V, let's see which one it should be. I think it's going to be 8. See how that looks. Make sure it's not cutting anything off. Looks pretty good. All right. We also need to change the texture so it's a little more clear in filter. Instead of inherit, we're going to go ahead and change that to nearest so it's a little clearer. Awesome. We're also going to go ahead and make this a little bigger. So in transform, we're going to set the scale. Let's set this to 5 and see how that is. Might be a little too big. Might not. Looks like it's a little too big. I don't want it too close to the edges. So what if we do a 4? I don't really like how small that is either. Let's try a 4.4 or 4.5. Perfect. Awesome. And you can adjust this however you want, but I think this is going to look pretty good for what we're using. I'm simply going to put the cow over there. Awesome. Looks good. All right. Maybe I'll add one more space on the name here, just because I think it's a little far still. So we'll start with 2 spaces. Awesome. All right. Perfect. So there's our cow button. I like it. Let's do the other 2 buttons we're going to have. Let's Control D. Perfect. And let's go ahead and make this one for the pig now. So I'm going to make the name pig button. Perfect. Might make sure to capitalize the P just so we can keep things organized. Awesome. All right. Let's move this entire button down a little bit. So I'm going to move it like there. I think that'll be pretty good. Change the name. Instead of cow, we're going to do pig. There we go. Let's change the sprite. Let's go ahead into the animation and simply change the frame until we find the cow, or I mean the pig. Horse. You could also make this one whatever you want. I think the pig looks pretty good though. Perfect. All right. Looks good. We need to change the name though of the actual button because we're not going to be buying the cow when we press this. We're going to be buying the pig. Let's add pig there. Perfect. All right, let's do another one now. Instead of the pig button, Control D. Let's change the name of this. Instead of pig, we're going to do, let's do duck. I think duck will be pretty cool. Awesome. Change the name of this button as well. We're going to do buy duck. Perfect. Change the sprite until we get the duck. Let's go into the animation. Change the frame until we find the duck. Oopsie, we didn't move the entire sprite yet, but we can do that in a bit. That duck looks pretty cool. Let's move this one down though so we can see the pig one as well. And there we go. Make sure we have the same amount of view. I like it. We could move all 3 of these up a little bit because I think there's a lot of space right there. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to close that. Hold down the Control key, select each one of our different animals, move the whole thing up a little bit, and perfect. Looks like we didn't change the actual text of duck, so let's make sure to do that. Open duck up, change that to duck. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. So far we got both pages. We have the page for the actual store, and then we also have the choose store as well. Let's go ahead and close this store. There we go. We can still see that store. And if we close that one and open that one, we should see the choose one. Perfect. All right, don't forget to save. All right, in this section, we're going to create the training UI. We're going to start off by creating the main UI node for the training page. Then we're going to go ahead, add a title and some buttons for the training page. And then last but not least, some lock buttons as well. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and create that page. Now what we want to do is actually go ahead and duplicate our choose page because it's going to kind of look like the same as this. So let's go ahead and first disable the other ones such as the store page because we're not going to use that. and then also the choose page once we duplicate it. So let's go ahead, select it, Control D. Perfect. I'm going to deselect the old one. Then in the choose page, we're going to change the name, of course, to training page. So let's do training page. Perfect. Hit enter. Awesome. All right, so we need to change a couple things here and add a couple things. The first thing, of course, is the actual header. So let's change that from choose to train. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead and change each one of our actual buttons here. And then, of course, add the label for cost as well. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead to the first one here, which is the back store button. This one here, the only thing we're going to change in it is going to be the actual button name in the button, which is button back choose. But because this one's different, we're going to do button back train. All right, awesome, perfect. All right, so now that we have that there, let's close that button there. And oh, actually, you know what? We forgot to change the actual name of the button itself too. Don't forget that. So button back train as well. Perfect. All right, now we need to do the cow button one. We're going to change this from cow button to, we're going to change it to tap value button. So tap val. Let's go ahead, do tap val. Awesome. Then we're going to go ahead, change the label inside of this as well. Instead of cow, we're going to simply change that to tap val. We could even spell it out, I think, if we can fit it, value. Let's see, I don't think that's going to fit with our image. So we'll just do tap val. Awesome. Then we're going to go ahead and change the actual image itself. Or actually, before we even do that, we can change the actual button name. So button by cow, we're going to change that to tap val. Perfect. Then we're also going to go ahead and change the sprite. Now for these ones, I want to have different like vegetables for these instead of the animals. So we can go ahead and drag and drop the new image in here. Open up Sheets, go find the veggies.png. Simply drag and drop that onto our sprite 2D. We're going to have to readjust the animation, so go ahead. I think it's going to be 2 and 3, so 2 for the H frames. And I think it's going to be 3 for the V frames. And oh, we might need to, nope, might be a little different. Let's increase this one a little bit. There we go, it's going to be 3 for that, and maybe it's 2 for this one. Yep, all right, so it's 3 for H frames and 2 for V frames, okay? Awesome, so make sure you have that one there. And I think for the tap value, let's go ahead and change this one to the pumpkin, which should be number 1. All right, awesome. Perfect, so now we have the tap vowel completed. Now we need to make the lock button for it. Oh, actually, you know, even before we do that, we need to show, of course, how much this one costs, which we don't have yet. So let's open that back up. For tap vowel, we're going to right click on here, add child node. We're going to add a simple label. And we're going to just call this label cost like we've done in the past. All right. Then we're going to go ahead, select it. And for this one, we're going to do $. Let's do 10 for this one. Awesome. I don't see where this label is. Wonder where it is. Oh, looks like it's up there. We're going to move it down and simply put it right above this one here. And we can't make this too big because, of course, we're going to have to fit these in between all these. Let's go ahead, go to label settings, new label settings. Font, let's do something like, let's see what 40 looks like. We might need to do bigger. Yep. Let's try 60. That should be good. You can increase it if you want to or decrease it. That's completely up to you. I'm going to change this to gold yellow. There we go. Give it an outline. Well, first we can change that outline to black so we can see it a little better. And then also the size. Let's go ahead and usually I like to do half of it, which I think that should look good. Maybe a little less. I could try like 28 because I want to see in between that 0 a little bit. Let's do 27. That's a little better. Awesome. All right, and then I simply want to put this somewhere in the middle. So I want to go up a little bit. Keep it pretty close to it. I think that looks like the middle to me, maybe a little bit more to the right. You can adjust that however you want, but I think that should look pretty good for what we need it for. Awesome. All right, perfect. So now that should be everything we have for the tap value. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and duplicate that for the lock button one. So let's go ahead and select that. Control D. change the name, tap val button lock. Awesome. We can remove that label cost in there because we do not need that one for this one. There we go. The only thing we need to change in here now is, of course, the button. So select the button, change the name of the button, tap button val lock, and then go ahead down to theme like we did in the past and change the type variation from flat to nothing. Perfect, just like that. You want to give it a little redness to it, you can do that also. Go to self-modulate and you can change that to red, just like that. Awesome, perfect. All right, that's looking good. Let's do the next two now. So for the pig button one, we're going to change this one to coin time. So let's go ahead and change that. We might not be able to fit the full word in there, but maybe we could do time plus or something. So let's go ahead, change the actual name of the button to coin time. Perfect. Then we're going to go ahead, go to the label. I don't think we're going to fit coin time in here. We can try. Coin time, yeah, see, it's too big. So let's go ahead and do maybe time plus, or actually I think we're coin time, coin val, time plus. Actually, we're going down in time, I think. So we're gonna do time minus, or we could do minus time. There we go. Because we're going to decrease the amount of time that we get the coins, okay? Every time we upgrade that. All right, awesome. All right, so then we're going to go ahead, change the image like we did with the one above it, drag and drop the veggies.png. Let's go ahead, change the animation. I think it was like 3 for this, and then 2 for this. Yep, we can keep it as the watermelon. Awesome. All right, make sure we change the name though. We don't want button by pig, we want button by coin time. Enter. Perfect. Awesome. And I think that's good. Now we just need to add the actual value above. So let's go ahead, take the one that we just created from the tap val. Let's open that up. Tape labeled cost, Control D, drag and drop that into there. Simply change that 2 out of there. We don't need that. Bring that down a little bit so it kind of matches with the one we have. Should be about that. Perfect. We might need to adjust these a little bit, but that should look good for now. Awesome. All right, next up, let's drag this one up a little bit so we can make some room. Let's go ahead, close that there. Close the one above it as well. Take these two here. Make sure you're selecting both the tap val button and tap val lock with holding down Control and clicking. And we're going to simply drag that up a little bit so we can make some room. I think that should be good there. Awesome. All right, maybe a little lower. I don't like how close it is to the header. That's pretty good. Perfect. And I think if we move that one down, we'll have enough room for all of them, which is exactly what we want. Perfect. All right, now we can go ahead and select this one here, the coin time button. Let's go ahead, drag that down a little bit just so we can make some room. I think that looks pretty good as well. Awesome, and you can adjust these however you want. That's completely up to you. I just want to give you a good example of how we can make things look. All right, coin time button, everything's good for that. Now we need the coin time button lock. So let's select it, Control D. Let's go to the end of it, change that to lock. Perfect. Let's go ahead, go into it. We have to add a lock to this one as well. Lock, perfect. And then of course we need to go into the theme of this one. Let's change this theme from flat button to nothing. And then also give it a little bit of redness in the visibility. Self-modulate, slide that over and slide that over. Awesome. All right, perfect. Now let's do the last one. This one is going to be here, and this is going to be the coin value. So every time the time hits the mark, we're going to get a specific coin. So let's go ahead and change this. We're going to change button to coin val. Perfect. Go into the actual button itself, change the name of that by coin val. Awesome. Perfect. Change the label. We're going to again change that to coin val for value. Awesome. You could do a coin plus too, that's up to you. All right, let's go ahead, drag and drop the veggies.png into Sprite2D. change the animations again. It was 2 and 3, or 3 and 2, maybe 3 and 2. Let's see. Was it 3 and 2 or am I? Nope, it was 3 and 2. Awesome. All right, and this one I think we can change it to the cabbage. You can make these whichever ones you want, but I think these look pretty good for the kind of game we're making. Awesome. All right, then of course we need the value that we have in the other ones. Let's go ahead, open up the value for the coin time, and I think I wanted to actually change this cost. I didn't want to keep them all at 10. So we can actually do that as well when we go back in there to duplicate it. I'm going to take that label of cost, and instead of 10 for this one, we can go ahead and make that 20. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead. Oh, looks like we had 2 for some reason. Oh, you know why? I think it's because we added the lock to it. So we can remove that as well. Go into the coin time button lock and just simply delete that. Perfect. All right, close that up. Let's duplicate that label cost that we have in the one above. Drag and drop that into the coin val button. Perfect. And we're gonna go ahead, take away the 2. And we're gonna change this one here. We could do 30 for this one, or whichever one you want, that's up to you. Since it's in the coin val button, we do want to go ahead, slide that down and kind of match it up to how we had it with the others. I think it was pretty close, about like that. Perfect. All right, now we need to move the actual button down a little bit so we have a couple space in between, which I think that would look good, maybe a little lower. Perfect, awesome. All right, just like that, I like it. All right, so now we have all that. Make sure we have the name set correctly. Perfect. I'm going to close up the coin time button right there and close this one up as well because now we need to make the lock for it. Let's go ahead, select it, Control D, change the name, button lock. Perfect. Let's go select into it and change what else we need. All right, we need to change, of course, the name of this here. Change that to lock. Perfect. And then, of course, go to the theme of it and go to the type variation, change that to nothing. Perfect. Give it a little bit of a red tint. Slide that over and slide that over. Awesome. And don't forget, we can remove the cost in this lock one as well. If you keep it though, it shouldn't matter either because it's the same size as everything else. Awesome. All right, perfect. So we can go ahead, we can save that, and there we go. Now we got our training page complete. Perfect. I really hope you're enjoying this course, but if you would like to continue it, you will have to become a student at Red Fools Academy. On first sign up, you will get a free 7 days back guarantee. Once a member, you will have full access to not only this course, but all of our courses in game, app, and website development. On top of that, you will get full support from the Red Fools Studio team. A link will be attached to the description, and you can also use this URL as seen below. See you in the lectures! In this project, we're going to go ahead and create a mining RPG game. You will learn how to create multiple scenes with tile map layer nodes. On top of that, you will learn how to create a character selection scene with 3 options to pick from. Lastly, you will create a script that generates a random floor level once the player goes down the ladder. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, in this section, we're going to get started creating our mining RPG game. We're going to start off by creating a new project. Then we're going to go ahead and download all the free assets we're going to be using for this game, which can be located at this link here. Then we're going to go ahead and import those assets into our new game's art folder. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Let's create our new project. We're going to go up to the top left, create. Then we're going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call mine Mining RPG. Then make sure it's in the right location you want. You can keep everything else the same and then go ahead and hit create and edit. Alright, once your game is loaded up, let's go ahead and select the 2D view. Perfect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Alright, so this should be a pretty good screen size for what we're dealing with for this game. We also need an art folder, so let's go ahead and right click on our res folder. We're going to do create new folder and then do just art. Awesome. Then we're going to go ahead, create a basic node. Let's just create a 2D scene real quick. And we're going to call this main. All right. Awesome. Save what we got so far. Save main.tscn. Perfect. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and download all the game assets we need. I found a really good pack. This one's called Sunnyside World. It has everything we need for the type of game we're making. It's created by Daniel Diggle, and you can locate it at itch.io. I'm going to share this link in the description. You scroll down, it's a name your own price, so it can be free, or you can donate money to them if you want to. Comes with a bunch of different characters, a lot of different tile sets, but most importantly, if you scroll down, you can see the entire world view with this really nice cave area, and that's the area we're going to be using a lot of sprites from. Alright, awesome. Let's scroll up a little bit. Go ahead, select that download now. You can donate to them if you want to, or just hit no thanks, just take me to the downloads. And the one that we need is this middle one here, the Sunnyside World Assets Pack, version 2.1.zip. Alright, so go ahead, select that, and start the download process. Alright, once you got that .zip downloaded, go ahead and right click on it and select Extract All. Now this extraction is pretty big. It took me about 5 minutes for mine. Might be slower for yours, might be faster. Just depends on how fast your computer is. But once that's extracted everything and you no longer have the .zip for the one over here, go ahead, select into it. Select the Sunnyside World Assets Pack version 2.1. And then we're going to be dragging and dropping this one here. We don't need all this other stuff, just the Sunnyside_world_assets. Go ahead, select that, drag and drop it into our art folder. Let that load. Once it loads everything in, we just need to make sure it's in the art folder. Sometimes it doesn't put it in there, as you can see right here. So simply just take that and drag and drop it into our art folder, and we should be good. Let that import everything. Awesome. Let's open it up, make sure those assets are in here. Awesome, there's that one, and then there we go. There's our characters, elements, tile sets, UI, and example image. Awesome, I'm gonna close that, save what I got. So far, so good. Alright, in this section, we're gonna go ahead and do some planning for our mining RPG game. We're gonna start off by inspecting a visual of the project goal. Then we're going to go ahead and review the possible scripts that will be needed to make the game work. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on our planning for our mining RPG game. Starting off, we're going to be looking at some visuals to help represent the type of game we're going to be creating. Starting off on the left over here, we're going to have our game title page. Now this is going to be the starting page of our game. So when you first turn on the game, you're going to see the title of the game and a play button below. We're also going to add a nice little background as well. Once you hit that play button though, we're going to be thrown into the select character scene next, where we're going to have the option to select in between a player 1, player 2, and player 3. They're going to have choose buttons below. Once you select one of those choose buttons, then we're going to be taken to the actual game scene, which is going to be right over here. The game scene is going to consist of the player being in the center of the map. We're going to have a health bar on the top left and an XP bar as well. We're also going to have a visual of the weapon that we're currently holding on the bottom left. And on the top right, we're going to have a little menu button. Once you select that menu button, we're going to have this nice little page here, where it's going to consist of your XP points, and you can use those XP points to upgrade your current skills. We're also going to have a back button to go back into the game, and a quit button that's going to basically take us right back to the start screen. Awesome. Now down below, I described a couple scripts we're going to be looking at that we're going to be making to help make this game actually work. Now on the left here, we have our main script, which is going to handle the start screen navigation and play game functionality. Then we're going to have our character select script, which is going to handle the character selection and sets the player's starting values. Then we're going to have our global values script. Now this is going to handle all the shared values for the player, health, attack, strength, floor level, and everything else. Then we're also going to have our game manager script, which is going to handle the functions in main game scene where the player is exploring the floor levels. Then we're also going to have the player script, which, if you guessed it, it's going to handle all the player movement, player animations, weapon selection, and overall player logic. Then back on the left, we're going to be creating an enemy script. This is going to handle the enemy movement, animations, attack, and health. Then we're going to have a rock script as well. That's going to handle the animations of the rock when hit by the player and XP given when destroyed. Then we're also going to have a ladder script, which is going to handle the starting process to generate a new floor for the player to explore. And last but not least, we're going to have a heart script that's going to reward the player more health when you run into it and destroy itself after, so you can't keep getting the health over and over again. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, in this section, we're going to create the start scene. We're going to start off by creating a new start scene node. Then we're going to go ahead and add some tile map layers. And from there, we're going to use the tile map layers to create a cave scene on the side of a beach. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and right click on our main node, add child node. We're going to add a node 2D. This node 2D we're going to rename. We're going to call this start screen. Perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and add a new tile map layer. Let's right click, add child node, type in tile, and you should see these two options, tile map and tile map layer. Now, tile map is the old way we used to create tile maps. The tile map layer is the new way, so we're going to be using the new way. So go ahead, select that, hit create. Awesome. Now, our tile map layer, we're going to go ahead on the right where it says tile set. We're going to change that from empty to new tile set. Perfect. We're also going to rename this. We're going to call this one sand, which is going to be our bottom layer. Awesome. Next up, we need to make it a little bigger because currently it's a little small right here. So over here to transform, we're going to go ahead and change the scale to 3 for X and Y. Awesome, just like that, just so it's a little bigger. Okay, perfect. All right, next thing we need to do is actually select the kind of tile set we want to use in here. That can be done at the bottom. We're currently on tile map. We want to select tile set. Okay. From here, we're going to go ahead, open up our art folder all the way till we get to tile set. And then we should get two options. We're going to use this top option here. This is going to be the full set of items. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that into here. Hit yes. And there you go. Godot will officially slice it all for you, which is super nice because it's 16 by 16. Everything should be set. If you ever needed to change anything on the left here, such as maybe giving it a name, changing the texture, making margin, separations, texture region, or even use texture on and off, you can do that. But because this is a 16 by 16, it's pretty simple. We can leave everything the same here. Okay, awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and select tile map. From here, let's go ahead now and start building our actual tile. Now this scene, of course, is going to be a simple beach side with a cave on it, maybe a couple trees on the top, maybe some rocks and some other items in it as well. This is going to be basically our start screen, and you can design this however you want. I just want to give you a simple template to follow along with in case you don't know what to make. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in real quick. We're going to add a base layer of sand. So let's go ahead, make sure we have the paint tool selected and also the picker tool, not the eraser tool. So deselect that if it's already selected. Then from there, you can go ahead and start placing them. So select it here and then simply click, and then there you go. You can start adding them wherever you want them. If you want to do it in a fast way to occupy this big area here, you can turn off this tool here and select this one, which is the rectangle tool, which will give you an actual rectangle size, just like that. Now, a safe bet that I usually like to do is go at least one tile further than the actual screen, just to make sure everything's going to be on the screen, just like that. Awesome. All right, now we have our base layer of sand. Perfect. Now we, of course, need to do the next layer, which is the actual water itself. So let's go ahead and design where the water is going to be. We might need to use another layer for this. So let's go ahead first and select the water. I'm simply going to grab this whole block right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pretty low. Let's start about at this tile here. Perfect. Now there is an edge of the water we can add as well, but we're going to need another tile for that because as you can see, if I select this edge of the water and try putting it here, it's going to erase it. Even if I try doing it here as well, it's going to mess it up as well. So we need to make another layer for this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to simply duplicate this. Control D. There we go. We can keep it as sand 2 or change the name, but let me just show you exactly what we're going to be doing. First, we need to erase everything currently on it. So keep the rectangle tool, use eraser tool, and simply remove everything. There we go. Awesome. And then go ahead, select this tool here, and now we can go ahead and add this thing here, but make sure it's not selected on eraser so you can actually place it. And there we go. Awesome. Perfect. So now we have our water looking pretty good. I like it. If you select somewhere else, you can view the whole thing just like that. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So now that we have the water here, now we need to add some actual things to the beach. I might add a little different sand tiles to it. So let's select back into our original sand, and we can rename this one here. We can just call this sand top because it's on top of the sand. Let's go back to the sand here. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit and scroll up. There should be some different sand tile sets right here with a little bit of dots on them. Make it look a little more natural. Let's go ahead and add a couple of these. So I'm going to make sure I'm selecting these tools here. Perfect. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of these just in some random spots. Make sure you have it selected though. Maybe here, here, maybe one over here. Let's add the 3 one as well, like here, 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 and here. Maybe one of the 2s, here and here. Awesome. Select away, and there we go. Looks a little more natural because we're going to have the cliff side right above it. Perfect. All right, so now let's go ahead and duplicate the layers again. Control D. We're going to call this cliff. Awesome. Let's go ahead and add that cliff side, and if you scroll out a little bit and move down, you're going to have the actual cliff side we can use, which I think looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and select the bottom one first. Let's use the rectangle tool. Let's make sure it is selected. Let's go ahead and add it at this layer right here. Let's go all the way across. And then let's use the next one to go all the way across as well. Awesome. Then we're going to go ahead and actually rotate a couple of these just so it looks a little better. Let's use the rotate tool and make sure on here, I'm simply going to go ahead and just rotate every other one, just like that. Awesome. Perfect. And let's do the same thing for the bottom one. Make sure we have it selected. Make sure it is rotated though. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So I'm going to rotate the in-between ones just like that. Awesome. Let's keep it going until we get all the way across. Perfect. Next thing we can do as well is we can give it a nice little green grass layer on the top. So let's go ahead, make sure we have it selected. Awesome. Let's drag it over. Just like that. Perfect. We can also go ahead and add some grass on the top as well. I think it is this lighter one here. Let's go ahead and add that there. Perfect. Make sure it matches. Select away. Awesome. All right, looking better. We're getting somewhere. I like it. Let's select the cliff side again. We can also add a couple different dots like we did with the sand on it. So let's go ahead and add a couple of those just to help make it look a little more natural. Awesome. Let's use this one as well. Perfect. And looking good, looking good. I like 2 in a row. Let's get rid of that. There we go. All right, perfect. Looking real good. Awesome. All right, let's continue. Now we need to make the actual cave in the middle. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we might need another layer for this. So let's go ahead and Control D. And just like we did with the sand, we can call this cliff top, which will be a layer on top of the cliff, but still considered the cliff layer. Now, first we need to find the actual middle point of this. And if you remember, we did one spot on the outside. So we start from here. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So if it's 24, we need 12 in the middle. So let's go ahead. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this part right here, let me go ahead, and what I'm going to do is just take something for now, place it there so we can remember, and the other 12 is going to be over here as well. Perfect. So that's our middle point. So our cave basically is going to go inward right here. So we can go ahead and start adding that now. Let's add the actual cave parts, which is going to be these parts right here. So let's add those. simply go ahead, select them, and then we're going to go ahead and actually we're going to have to make this a little longer because as you can see it's 3 blocks, which isn't going to make things equal. So we're just going to extend this one more. So let's use the corner pieces first. Add a corner piece there and a corner piece over here and 2 middle pieces right here. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. And we need some sand on the bottom part. So let's go ahead and add some sand there. Awesome. And we need some corner blocks now. So if we go ahead and we use the sand one here, I think we could maybe do something like that. And then this one over here for the other side. Perfect. And let's see what else we could do. We could do the top part up there for the grass. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Should be over here. Awesome. Let's see what we can do for that. I think it's this one here. Oops. Well, we're going to need that on top. But you'll see how we do that in just a second. We're going to put that there. And then we're going to put that over there. Awesome. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put one more on the top here. Just like that. And then we need some blocks to fix the corner pieces for these, like that. And this one over here. And then, of course, the top pieces as well. Awesome. All right, now how can we actually fix this part though without recopying it and all that? Well, we're gonna have to create another layer for that, which is just gonna be for the corners and all that, because if you select away, it still looks a little messed up there, but we can add some things to that. We can actually just add it into our nature layer that we're gonna create next anyway, because I don't think it's gonna affect it. So let's go ahead, select it, Control D, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go change this name to nature. Awesome. All right, select nature layer. Let's go ahead and delete everything in nature layer first. So I am going to hit the eraser button. I'm going to copy everything, remove it all. Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead, zoom in a little bit. First thing we're going to do is repair the cave that we messed up. Make sure we are on the tool there. Let's go ahead, add that there. Perfect. And that there. Perfect. And what we can do to fix this bottom part to make it not look messed up is we can simply add these things here, which will kind of cover those corner pieces, which will make it look a little more natural. Awesome. We select away. Perfect. See how that looks a lot better? I like that. All right. Now this is the nature layer though, so we can add some nature objects now. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's select the nature layer. Let's go ahead and find some nature items. I think there's some rocks around here. If we zoom in over here, there we go. Let's add some rocks. Maybe I'll put one over here and maybe another over there. Maybe a single rock on this side. Maybe I'll put a big rock up here and maybe another. We could do this other rock maybe over here. Awesome. So now we have some rocks. Awesome. Let's add, maybe we can add some grass as well. Like a fern plant or something. There we go. Go, put that over there. Now another thing we could do, we could add actually like some other items in here too. Maybe you want to add some boxes, but I think a treasure chest would look pretty cool. Let's add that treasure chest like right over here. Awesome. And maybe we even could add some pots. There's some pots over here somewhere, if I can find them. Let's look around. There we go. There's a 3 set of pots right here. Let's add those maybe right over here. Perfect. Let's see how that looks. I like it. Now maybe we could add some trees at the top. We can do that pretty easily and pretty quickly. Let's go ahead in here. We're going to simply use our rectangle tool and we're going to copy basically as many trees as we can. So like that, I think, and the bottom part there because it has a little under shadow. Let's make sure we grab that. And let's see how it looks if we just do this and that. I think that'll look good. We might need to replace some of our rocks and stuff. We can do that. Awesome. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. I like it. All right. Looks like though, because we had that little bottom piece there, it got rid of our top pieces. So if you want to do it, you can just Control D on our nature. And what we're simply going to do is what we've always done. We're just going to remove everything we got there. And we can just call this nature top like we've done with the other ones. Awesome. Let that load, select into it, And we could just place down those items we had earlier. Let's go ahead and place those. Make sure we don't have the eraser tool, which was a rock there, I think. Or I think we did a big rock right there. Yep. And then we did one of these rocks over here. I think there's some berries we can add too as well. You want to add some berries somewhere? There we go. Just give a little more color into the game. Like that, maybe over there. They kind of look like apples. I like it. Maybe we could add some up here. Maybe not too close. Maybe like over there. I don't really like things being too close, so maybe like that. Yep. Awesome. All right, perfect. Almost done. This thing's looking really good. I like it. I hope you feel pretty comfortable with using these tile map layers. There's a lot of other tools you can use as well, other than the rotate tools. There's even like a randomization button you can use. There's a lot of different things we can use with this, but primarily the tools I just showed you are going to be the most of the time ones you're going to use. All right. All right. Now, next thing we could do just to make this look like it has a little more life is we could add a little shadow effect. And that looks pretty cool because currently this doesn't really look, I would say, like there's a shadow of the cliffside covering this stuff over here, but we can add that. Let's add a new layer for that, Control D. Let's go ahead and change this to shadow. All right, and oops, get rid of that nature word there. We don't need that anymore. Awesome. Let's go ahead, select this. There's some shadows here that we can use, which look pretty good, I think. I'm gonna select that shadow there, make sure I'm in the rectangle box. Awesome. I'm gonna simply go ahead and just make this part all shadows. This part here as well. And let's see, I kind of want to have a little shadow effect on this side. So let's go ahead and add some little angles there. There we go. And let's rotate this. Oops. Looks like I missed it. One more. Perfect. And we can go ahead and simply add that for there. Whoops. There we go. And another for over there. Whoops. There we go. And I think we need a middle box for those ones there. Perfect. If we select out of it, awesome. Now there's one problem though with this, is our items are now being shadowed, so they're harder to see, and there's kind of a mess up here with these pots. So I found the best way to do this is just put the shadow layer below the nature layers. Let that load, and there we go. That kind of fixes it, and still looks pretty natural. All right, awesome. All right, so far so good. Go save that. One more thing we could do just to make this look a little more clear is if we go ahead and select the top one here, hold down the shift key and select the one at the bottom there, it will select all of them. Now, one thing I noticed is the texture looks a little fuzzy. We can fix that simply by going to texture, changing filter to nearest. And there we go. Now it looks a lot clearer, okay? Awesome. All right, now save again, and there we go. All right, in this section, we're gonna go ahead and create the Start Scene UI. We're gonna start off creating a new Start Scene UI node. Then we're gonna go ahead and add a title and a play game button. Last but not least, we're also gonna add a mini pickaxe animation. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and right click on the Start Screen node, Add Child Node. We're gonna go ahead and simply add a node 2D first. Let's go ahead, create that. We're gonna rename it. We're gonna rename this UI. Awesome. All right, let that load, perfect. So our UI node is gonna hold all of our UI content. So let's go ahead and build our first UI content, which is gonna be our title of the game. So let's right click on UI, Add Child Node. This is gonna be a label, create, and let's retitle it as label title. Awesome, let that load, perfect. Let's select that. All right, so let's use our pointer tool and just make sure it stretches all the way to our screen. And I'm gonna go about there, maybe zoom in a little bit to make sure you're covering the blue line, perfect. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and give it a title. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna call this Mining Dungeon. So Mining Dungeon. Awesome. Let's go ahead and center it up with the horizontal and the vertical. Perfect. Let's give it a label setting. All right, select it. So we're gonna have a font. Let's make this pretty big. I'm actually gonna make it 100 and see how that looks. I think that looks pretty good. Awesome. Let's change the color, maybe a yellow orange. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Let's also give it an outline as well. I'm going to do an outline of 30, and let's make it black. Perfect. Awesome. Remember, you can make this look however you want. I just want to give you kind of a template to work with. All right. Perfect. So there's our title. Awesome. Maybe I'll move it up a little bit just so it's not in the cave. Perfect. Just like that. Awesome. Maybe up a little more so it's not covering all the nature. There we go. And remember, you can adjust this however you want, but I think this looks pretty good for what we're dealing with. All right. Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and continue. So now we're going to go ahead. We're going to right click on UI, add child node. All right. Now we're also going to go ahead here and we're going to add another node 2D. This is going to be for our play game button. So let's go ahead and call this play button. We need to add a couple things in this play button, starting with the actual image we're going to use. So let's go ahead and right click, add child node. We're going to add a sprite 2D. All right, this sprite 2D is going to be the starting point of our images, which we can go into art, go all the way down to UI, scroll down, and you should see the edges of the buttons we can use, the label left, label middle, and label right. Let's start with the label left, drag and drop it into here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and just move that down here somewhere in the middle for now. We might adjust it later. We need to make it a little bigger. It's kind of small. So let's go ahead and let's change this to, let's see how 5 looks. It might be too big. Maybe a little bigger than that. Let's try 7. That looks pretty good. Awesome. Let's also change the texture. Let's change it from inherit to nearest. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Then, of course, we need the next one. So let's go ahead and we're going to basically duplicate this and just change the image with the middle. So drag and drop it into there. Perfect. Let's just move it over, make sure it's still connected. Awesome. Let's duplicate that again. Let's use the right one. And let's simply drag that over there. Now I might add one more middle just because I think this is a little small. So maybe let's add another middle in that same one. Make it a little bit longer. And then simply just select it again, duplicate it, and then drag and drop that right side for it. And simply attach it. Oops, make sure it's still on the same length of it. There we go. How does that look? I think pretty good. Awesome. And then if we just simply take the main node and move it over, we can tell where it is. I just want to make sure it's in the center, which is where the cave is. So let's do something like that. And then I'm going to put it like right there. Awesome. Perfect. So now we have the image for our play button. Let's go ahead and right click on play button. Now we're going to simply add the text for it. So let's add a label. Create that. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just move that over here. Let's stretch it out to reach the outer points of this. So there, and I think over there. Awesome. Doesn't need to be perfect, but pretty close would be nice. There we go. Awesome. All right, now the actual text we need for it. I'm just simply going to say play. You could say play game in here if you wanted, but I think play will work pretty well. I'm also going to center it up. Perfect. Let's add another label setting. Let's go ahead. Let's give it a new font size. Let's try 40 and see how that looks. I think it looks pretty good. Maybe we could a little smaller, maybe 38. There we go. Then let's also go ahead, change the outline. Let's do a 10 and change it to black. Maybe make it a little bit thicker. Let's try 20. Perfect. Awesome. So now we just need the actual button node to attach this. So let's go ahead inside the play button, add child node. We're going to add button. Awesome. Let's take that. Let's move it over. If I can grab it, there we go. And then let's use the pointer tool. Zoom in a little bit. Let's go ahead and extend this to the edges. Now the reason we're doing it from here, not all the way to the outside, is because the darkening of the button when we click it is going to look a lot better if we do it this way. And you'll see what I mean. All right. Currently though, we don't want it to be darkened out, and we can change that simply by going over to theme and selecting the type variation from nothing to flat button. There we go. But there is one problem with this. If we go ahead, select somewhere else, save the scene, and just go ahead and hit play. It might ask for you to select current scene. Go ahead and select that. If it doesn't, the game will just open. If you go ahead now and select the button, it's going to have this white box around, which I really don't like. I think it kind of adds like a weird, and also will stay highlighted if you don't select something else, which is weird. So let's go ahead and let's change that. There's a simple solution for that. Select the button. Let's go ahead and find the, where is it? It is going to be in the texture, not texture. Oopsie. I think it's going to be in the, where is that box? Not the theme. It's going to be in the layout. Yep, layout. And see this clip components? We want to turn that on because that will basically clip that white box around it. So go ahead, select on, save that, hit play, and now you'll see it go away, which is super nice and looks a lot better. See, now there's no white box surrounding this, and the entire inside of the button is now going to darken, which is exactly what we want. So it looks a little more natural. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Now one more thing we need to do, of course, is rename this because this is going to have a function attached to it, so we need to know what this is. So we could call it button play game. Perfect. All right, and save what you got so far. All right, let's go ahead now and create the pickaxe animation. So let's go ahead and inside, again, the UI here. A simple way I'm going to do it is I'm actually just going to use our tile maps for this because we could just attach it to a sprite, but finding the sprite in the giant tile map we have is going to be pretty difficult. So it's actually easier just to use a tile map layer and then just find it using that way. So I'm actually just going to copy our tile map layer, Control D. I'm going to change the name and just call this, let's get rid of the whole name here and just call this axe. Okay, awesome. And I'm going to delete everything in this tile map just so we have nothing in here. So I don't want anything in there. Perfect. And I'm just going to simply drag and drop this into our UI. Okay. Let that load. It might take a second. Perfect. Now I'm also going to select our UI, add child node, and I'm just going to call this axes. Well, not axes. We're going to first make the node and then call it axes. There we go. Let that load. Drag and drop our tile map layer axe into the axes. Perfect. And I just simply want to create two axes on either side here. And if we zoom out, we can go ahead now and select the actual axe we have, which is, or the pickaxe we have, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure I am selecting it with the pointer, not the eraser. Select the axe here. And we're actually going to need two of these because I'm going to make this stand up instead of still faced this way. So it doesn't really matter where you put it. I'm just going to put it, let's just say right here. Awesome. All right, and then what else I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, select this here, and we're going to make this basically grow in size. We need this to be much bigger, so I'm going to do 6. We still might need to be bigger than that, so let's try like 12. I know you can't see it here, but we can center it out. Don't know if that's going to be big enough, but we'll see. I'm just going to take it, and I'm simply going to put it here for now. And I'm going to rotate it so it's standing up, which should be about, I think a -48 is exact. No. Let's try, oopsie. What does 90 look like? 90... 180. I guess it's gonna have to be odd because it's not already facing the correct way. But let's go ahead and just kind of bullseye it. So we're close with this, but we need to be a little smaller. What if we just do 9? Nope. Let's try 7. 47. I think that's pretty good. Maybe a little less. Yeah, because it's like really close. Let's try 46. And I think that's perfect. Yep, awesome. Perfect. We could go less, but I think that is pretty darn close. I guess we could try, let's try 45. and just see. But I think that's as good as we're gonna get with 46. No, 45 I think is better. Perfect. Yeah, awesome. 45 works. All right. Then we can also, let's just put it here for now. And we need 2 of these, so let's go ahead, Control D. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put it very similar on the water. I'm using the 2 points there and just making sure it's right on the water. Let's see how that looks. Awesome. Let's do the other one. Make sure it's also right on the water. Awesome. Perfect. And maybe I'm going to make this one go a little bit farther. Make sure the points are right on the water, just like that one. Awesome. If we select out of this and just go to the axis and then just move this whole thing over, we can do this. And all I want to do is I just want to make these kind of like hover up and down. So we can do that pretty easily as well. Let's go ahead though and create that animation for this real quick. So in UI, we're going to right click, add child node. We're going to use an animation player. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just call this new. We can call this pickaxe float. Perfect. And what we're simply going to do is have these hover up and down. So let's go ahead and we're going to go start. Well, we can make it 1 second. It's probably going to need to be longer, but we're going to start off with 2 of our positions of the axe. So we can select the main node here. Let's go to lay or transform. Let's select a check for the position because our starting position is here. And then let's say when we get to 0.5, our position goes up a little bit, so let's move that position. Let's go something like there. Awesome. Save that. And then back to whatever we had it at this, which was -21. Or whoops, it was just 0 for Y, I guess. Okay. Let's go to 0. Check mark that. Awesome. Let's hit play and see how this looks. Make it on loop with this button over here. Let's hit play. Might be a little too fast, I think. Yeah, I think it's too fast. So we can extend this. Let's make it 2 seconds long. And let's simply move this all the way to 2. And we're going to move this one here to 1. Perfect. Let's hit play, see how that looks. I think it looks pretty good. We can make it a little more fluent with this here as well. If we go discrete, it'll be instant. If we go capture, it'll float a little better. I kind of like continuous though. What do we do linear? I like that a lot. There we go. If we keep it at, what did I put at cubic? It kind of like bounces back and forth. I think it looks pretty good. Awesome. And you can play around with this. You can make it however you want, but I think that looks pretty good for what we're dealing with. All right, awesome. I'm going to select out of that. I'm going to select a point. Let's go ahead and save what we got. And there we go. Looking good. All right, in this section, we're going to create the global script. We're going to start off by creating a new script. Then we're going to go ahead and add some global variables that we will use throughout the game. Then we're going to add a quick function to level up our player. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating our global script. All right, so let's go ahead, go to our project settings, go to globals. Then here, let's go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to simply call this global. I'm going to go ahead, add this, keep it at global.gd, create, and there we go. Then let's simply open it up by selecting it, and here we go. Awesome. So we're going to keep the process function, but we are going to get rid of the ready one. We aren't going to need this one. Let's go ahead and add a couple things for our variables we're going to use. We're going to start off with a variable for char chosen, which is going to be our character chosen. This is going to be an int, and we're going to set this to 0 starting off. All right. We're also going to have a variable called health. This is also going to be int, and we're going to equal this to 3 starting off. All right, awesome. Next up, we're going to have a variable, call it attack. We're going to equal this to an int, and then we're going to go ahead and make it equal 1, just like that. Next up, we're going to create another variable. This is going to be called mining strength. And again, this is going to be an int, and we're going to equal it to 1. Okay? We're going to add another variable as well. This one's going to be char speed, which is going to be our character speed. We're going to make it an int, and then we're going to go ahead and equal it to 1 starting off. All right? Awesome. Then we're going to add some more variables below, starting off with a variable for XP. We're going to go ahead, start this one off as int equaling 0. We're also going to do another one. This one's going to be called current level. It's also going to be an int, and we're going to equal it to 0 starting off. All right, awesome. Then we're going to go ahead and call this one L points, which is going to be our level points we can use to upgrade our character. We're going to make it also equal int and equaling 0. All right, perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and do another one. This one's going to be called weapon in use. And we're going to go ahead, int equal it to 0. Perfect. All right. All these variables we're going to use throughout the game, so make sure you have them down. Go ahead and save what you got. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Next thing we're going to do is create our next function that's going to basically calculate our XP and our level. And we're just going to put that in our process because we know the process function is just going to run every frame. So we can definitely keep track of our player's current level with that. So in here, we're just going to do a simple if statement. We're going to say if XP is greater than or equal to 10, then we're going to simply go ahead and we're going to say current level plus equals 1. We're also going to go ahead and do L points plus equals 1, because now we get a new point that we can use to upgrade some of our stats. Then we're also going to go ahead and we're simply going to make our XP minus equal 10. All right, because our XP is basically going to always run and then reset over time. All right, awesome. So make sure you have all that there. Go ahead and save what you got, and looking good so far. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the character scene. We're going to start off creating a new scene for the character selection. Then we're going to go ahead and add a couple tile map layer nodes. Then we're going to go ahead and design an inside cave scene. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start creating the character scene. So let's go ahead, let's go into the 2D view. All right, let's zoom out a little bit. All right, let's close up everything here, the UI right there. Now we can leave these open for a second because we're going to actually duplicate one of these layers and just use it for the next scene as well. So let's go ahead and right click on main node, add child node. Let's go ahead and add a node 2D. Select that, hit create. Awesome. Let's go ahead and let's call this char select for character select. Awesome. Let that load for a second. All right, so let's go ahead and duplicate one of the layers we have. Let's Control D on that. Let's drag and drop it into the character select. Let that load. May take a second or two. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and let's rename this. We're just going to go ahead and call this floor. Awesome. Let that load. There we go. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get rid of everything we currently have. So I'm going to actually completely turn off the start screen for now, just so we can make sure we can see everything. I'm going to close it as well. Let's go ahead and make sure we are on the square tool and the eraser. And let's go ahead and just erase everything. Now, actually, just to see what we're doing real quick to make sure we have enough length, let's turn on the start screen and just simply outline exactly the same screen size. So let's go ahead and find the dirt that we're going to use basically for the actual one here, which we can use one of the darkened out squares, which is just like this here. So let's go ahead and just simply select it and just make a square. all the way to here to here. Perfect. Awesome. Then we can go ahead and turn off the start screen. All right. Perfect. So now that we have this here, that works pretty well. Now we can kind of go ahead and make the actual scene in the middle, which I want to do a nice little like floor area. So let's go ahead and let's select the dirt right there in the middle. Let's go ahead and now select the inside of the cave that we want. I don't want to do too high because I kind of want a title, so maybe about this square here we could do. Make sure we still have it selected though. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and start from, I guess we would start from there. That's not bad. But I guess maybe not because we're going to have one. So we'll do there. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and just make it 3 away from there. So we'll do 3 away from that side. And then we'll do 3 away from this one as well. Might need to zoom in so we can see. Looks like it is going to be 1, 2, 3. So if we go ahead and do that, we should be even on each side. Awesome. Then let's go ahead and make it as low as we want it. We're going to have some buttons on the bottom, so we might not want to make it too low. So let's try something like this. Awesome. Then we can give it some corners as well, which might look pretty good. So we could do the top part first. Let's go ahead and put that for there. Awesome. For the side ones, we could do these ones here. Awesome. Let's do the other side. Perfect. Now we need to make it some corners, so we could go ahead and add that there for there. And maybe even there as well. Let's do the other one now. And the other one. Perfect. That looks a little better. We need the top part as well, which should be around here. If we can't use the top part, I might actually just use this and just rotate it. So we could simply just rotate it once. Or maybe twice. There we go. Just so we can have that curve at the bottom and the top. I like that. Then of course we need the bottom one as well. So let's go ahead and double click that for there. And let's see. Yep. I like that. Perfect. Let's give it some corners in the bottom though as well. Looks like we almost forgot to do that. There we go. And the one over here. Awesome. Oopsie. Make sure we have that still filled. And this one here. And these two here as well. All right. Awesome. Perfect. This looks pretty good to me. We could make it go a little bit more in, which I might do actually. So let's try making this corner just one more deeper down here. And then one more here as well. Maybe we'll do that there. And then again, we're going to get this here. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. Oops, looks like I did the wrong one. 1, 2. Put it over there. Awesome. All right, looking good. And yeah, I think I like that because our buttons are going to need a little bit more room here. That's why I kind of want to do that. All right, awesome. Let's get rid of that extra block we made earlier. All right, perfect. So this is going to be the floor layer. So this is good. We can keep this one. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. Control D. Let's go ahead and let's say this is floor layer 2. All right. Or we could just do floor layer top actually to match what we did with the others. Let's let that load. There we go. Now floor layer top is just going to be basically some dirt patches on top of the floor, which is going to make it look a little bit more natural. So let's go ahead and make those real quick. I think there's some dirt patches up here we can use. There's about 2 different ones here and here. I thought there's a lighter one somewhere, but maybe not. It might just be those ones. I guess it is. All right, let's use the lighter ones here. So let's go ahead and make sure we're selecting that. Let's select this here. I'm going to use the pick tool or paint tool instead. So let's go ahead and what I'm going to do is I want to add a patch here. So let's go ahead, make sure that's popping up. Looks like it's not. There we go. We'll do that there. We'll do it here. And then let's make it a little longer. There we go. There we go. And let's give it a middle one there. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just turn this, or let's add one there and there. Let's go ahead and turn this one around. Do the top layers. There we go. And let's do the left and right. Let's see what this one is over there. Perfect. There we go. Then let's do the corner pieces. Not that one. I think it might be this one. Yep. And then the other one, which is going to be this one. Whoops. There we go. That one doesn't look as natural though. Nope, it matches up with the other one. That's fine. Awesome. So we have a dirt patch there. Let's also make one over here as well. Let's go ahead and make one coming out of here. There. And what is it? There. And there. Here. And here. Perfect. Awesome. And maybe one little one over here we could do, like a simple circle one. That one would be okay. Let's do that as well. Put one over here. Let's do that. Let's do that. And one of those. One there. There we go. There we go. Let's see if I can get this one on the right side. Yep. And one there. Perfect. Awesome. All right, if we select away, that looks pretty good. We just have some extra now kind of dirt patches, which look pretty cool. Awesome. Looks like our squares in the middle, though, are not matching up. So if you want to fix that, you can. Simply go ahead, select it, or even just use the selector too, and just use the rotate tool. It should be able to rotate. Or it might not let you until we're using the actual point tool. There we go. And you can rotate that whatever way you want. I might actually just keep it that way too. I think I'm okay with that. It's not supposed to look perfect anyway. It's gonna look like dirt. Oh, that one way looks good actually. And then let's see if we can get that one to go as well. Yep. Awesome. I think that looks good for that one. Maybe we could fix this other one over here. I kind of like that. Looks pretty good to me. Let's try this one here as well. Almost. There we go. That one looks not bad. Maybe one more. There we go. And then last but not least, this one here. Let's see if we can get that to the right one. Maybe one more. Yep, perfect. Awesome. All right, perfect. That looks a little better, I think. You can adjust it however you want as well. That's completely up to you. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and continue. So let's go ahead and make another layer now. This one's going to be for kind of like items now. So let's go ahead and change the name of this. Tile map layer items. Let's let that load. Let's back this up. All right, let's go ahead and add a couple little items in here. First thing we want to add though is a ladder, because this signifies that we have basically gone down, and that's exactly what we want. So let's go ahead, let's select this entire ladder here. It's gonna be 3 pieces. So we'll start from, I think we'll start from the third one up. Make sure we have it selected, which it's not. Let's try that. If it's gonna let me do it. No, it's not. Interesting. We can just do one by one, that's fine. If it lets me. Still doesn't like it. What in the heck? There we go. All right, we got a ladder there. We need the top part of the ladder and the bottom part, so we can go ahead and add the top part here. And then the bottom part there, perfect. Awesome, let's get rid of the extra. There's the ladder. Then of course we need some other little things we can add in here. This is completely up to you. Also, we don't have to, we can do whatever way you want it. Make sure it's the right thing selecting it. Oopsie. There we go. Perfect. I'm gonna put this, let's just put it right next to the ladder right there. Awesome. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna remove that over there. Let's see what else we could add in here. We could add, what else? Maybe some little mushrooms might be kind of cool. We could put some little mushrooms in here. Maybe one like over here. Oops. Doesn't like that. It thinks I'm picking basically the wrong thing. Keeps making me think I'm duplicating. There we go. So I'm going to put a mushroom there. We could put one over here. Maybe on the top, maybe a different one, maybe the double one. There we go. What else could we do? Maybe add a small one over here. Awesome. Maybe we want to add some boxes and stuff. Let's go ahead and find some boxes. Maybe some of these boxes here. Got a box bookshelf over there. Maybe we could add an empty box here as well. Just like that. Perfect. Looks like that's more of a minecart, actually. I don't want to add that one. Where's another type of box we can add? Maybe like a barrel. We could add a little barrel. Maybe even some sword barrels, actually. That might look cooler. Perfect. Awesome. All right. I think things are looking pretty good, honestly. I like this. Let's click away. And there we go. So now what we're going to add eventually is, of course, our 3 different players you can select in the middle, and also a couple buttons on the bottom and a back button on the top left. Perfect. So let's save what we got so far. And looking good. All right, let's continue. Now let's go ahead and make those characters we can select. So let's go ahead and add what we need for this. Now, the one thing we can add to this, though, is a couple rocks here, and we can actually do that with the items one here because it's going to be on the top layer. So let's select that there. Now, the rocks I want to use are going to be all the way to the right. They're going to be underneath all these gems and stuff. It's going to be this flat one here. So let's go ahead and make sure we have the right tool on it. Select it, make sure it's visible. Awesome. Let's go ahead and put it right about here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 away right there. 1, 2, 3, 4 away right here. Awesome. So now we have some nice separation for each player. Perfect. Let's go ahead and select out of this. All right. So now that we have that, we can go ahead now and create some characters to put on top of these rocks to showcase the one you can select. So let's go ahead. Let's right click on character select, add child node. We're going to do node 2D. Let's go ahead and rename this P1. All right. So for P1, which was player 1, we're going to add a couple things. We need to add the player body first. Let's go ahead and right click, add child node. We're going to do a sprite 2D. Let's rename this. Let's call this body. Let that load. Once it does, select body. Let's go ahead and find the body we want to use. That's going to be under the characters folder. And then human. And then go ahead and find the idle. And we want to use the base idle strip. So go ahead, drag and drop that into body. There we go. Awesome. Then we need to set the animation. So right over here, let's change the H frames to 9. Perfect. And then let's go to transform. Let's make this a little bigger. Let's do 3 for the scale size. Perfect. Then we need to change the texture so it's a little bit more clear. Let's do nearest or filter. Perfect. Awesome. So now that we have the body, let's go ahead and let's put this on top of the rock. So let's go ahead and just drag him right over there. Make sure it's pretty centered. Doesn't have to be perfect. Awesome. Just like that. Perfect. So now that we have the body, now we need the hair and then the weapon. So let's go ahead, select body, right click, add child node. And you know what? A better way to do this, actually, let's just cancel that. Let's just duplicate this and put it inside of it so we don't need to change any more settings. Control D, and just simply drag and drop it on top of body. Let that load. Let's go ahead and change the name. This is going to be the hair. So let's go type in hair. Let that load. Perfect. Now we need to find the hair, and for this one I'm going to use the spiky hair. You can use whichever ones you want. I'm going to use spiky hair though. There we go. And perfect. Just like that. Because we had all the settings set in the last one, it's going to be the same thing. Alright, awesome. So go ahead, keep the hair there for that. Now we need the actual weapon. So let's go ahead, just duplicate this, Control D, change the name. Let's call this weapon. Let that load. Alright, perfect. Now the weapon is actually going to be inside the UI one, so not inside the characters folder. This is going to be in the UI. And if you scroll down, there's like an axe, there is a shovel, a hammer, all these different things, a pickaxe. For this guy, I want to give him the sword, so let's go ahead and drag and drop the sword.png into weapon. Awesome. We do have to reset the animation because this is only one sprite, so go ahead and just make it 1. There we go. And there's your sword. Perfect. Let's go ahead though and put it next to its hand. And I kind of want to make it behind the player because currently it's on top of the player right now, and we don't really want that. So what we could do is first select the body, go to ordering, turn off Z as relative, and let's make Z index. Let's make this 5. Okay. Then let's go to weapon. Let's go to ordering. Let's go to Z as relative, turn that off. And this one, let's make it at, we can make it at 3, or let's make it at 4 actually, because we also need to do the same thing for the hair. We need to go into ordering, turn off Z as relative, and this one needs to be higher than the body, so we did 5 for that, so it would be 6 for this one. Perfect. And there you go. Now it looks a little better because it looks like he's holding the sword. If you want to make the sword in front of the player, you could do that also, but I think for this it looks good. All right, awesome. So now let's make the other players, and it's pretty easy. We just have to duplicate them over. But before we do that, we're actually going to give this player a little animation, okay? So let's go ahead on the body. Let's right click. Let's go ahead, add child node. Let's do animation player. Perfect. And we just want to give them a little like bobbing idle animation, and that's pretty easy. So let's select animation player, animation. Let's go ahead and do new, and let's just do, we'll call this idle. All right. Idle can be 1 second long. We just want to make him kind of just go up and down. So let's select the body animation, and let's go ahead and first we'll keep the frame 0 as the starting one. So let's go ahead and hit create. Perfect. Let's go ahead now and go to like 0.25. And let's see what happens if we change it. I want to do the one where he's actually ducking down, which is that one. So his whole body goes down, which is 3. Let's do that 3 there. Now one thing if you've noticed is the hair is not, so we need to go ahead and change the hair animation. So select hair, animation, and I think we made it 3, so let's go ahead and see what 3 looks like. There we go. Save that as well. Hit create. And then we're at point, are we at 0.3 or 0.25? I think we said 0.25. So if we go to 0.25, we want to make this be the same length as there, and same thing here. Perfect. And then if we go to 0.5, we want everything to go back. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead, we can select hair and just go back to 0. Or was it 1? That was 0. And then we will go to the body as well, and we will make that frame go back to 0. There we go. Awesome. And since we made this at 0.5 and 0.25, we're going to make the actual length of the animation 0.75, okay? We might need to change that, but I think it'll look good for what we're doing. Let's put it on repeat, and let's see how this looks. Yep, looks pretty good to me. I like it. Awesome. All right, so the next thing we could do though is we could simply make the sword animate with it. We could do that. That might make it look a little better. So let's go ahead and let's go back to the original here. Let's freeze the starting animation for the hair because I don't think we did that. Let's make that go to 0 as well. There we go. Yep, that looks a lot better. All right, but we also need to freeze the position of the weapon. So that's going to be in transform, and that's going to be position. We're going to freeze that, create, perfect. Then at 0.25, it's going to go down a little bit, so we can simply just move this down just a little bit, not too far. Let's freeze that. And then at 0.25, we're going to go back to the original, which if you remember, I think it is going to be just x10 and y0. So we can go to 0.5 here. So make y0 again. Save that value. Perfect. Now if we hit play, As you can see though, it's going to move like that, and we don't want that. We want it to be instant. So there's a way we can do that actually. If you go down to weapon, we can change this to discrete, and there you go. Awesome. Perfect. So if we go ahead, back out of it, select away, that looks pretty good. He's moving with his animation. I like it. I like how it has the sword and it's going like that. If you wanted to put the sword in front, you could do that as well. Let's see if that looks a little better. Let's select sword. Let's change this and put this at, let's do 7 because the other two are 6. And honestly, that does look a little better, so I might keep it like that instead. Yep, we could even make it go out a little farther too. So if I want to select that, we could simply just go ahead and go a little farther like that. We might need to save that within it, but that's up to you. I don't really like how the little corner pieces like that though. So maybe we can just pause this here. Let's go ahead and change the position. So let's go ahead and make the position go a little farther out just so it doesn't look like it's on top of him. There we go. Let's save that position of the weapon. Then let's go to 0.5. Same thing. Let's go ahead and move this just a little bit like that. Save that. Perfect. Now if we hit play, looks like it's still going back for some reason. So over here, go here. Looks like at the 0.25 mark it's doing that. So we can go to 0.25 again. And simply move it over. There we go. Save that. Hit play. Let's see how that looks. And there we go. Awesome. I think it looks much better. Perfect. Let's click away. And there we go. Awesome. I like it. Again, let's see how that looks without being in front. Let's do 4. Yeah, that looks a lot better too. I like it. Well, you can do either way, but we'll keep it for now. All right, let's go ahead and make the rest of the characters super easy because all we need to do is just switch out the hair. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pause this animation real quick. Put it to the beginning. Let's go ahead and just select P1 and Control D. And all we're really going to do is just move this player over. Let's go ahead and just move it over to the other block right there. Perfect. Let's go ahead and switch out the player hair. So if you scroll up, we have the spiky hair currently selected. We're just going to go ahead and simply change that. Let's go to characters. It was an idle. So we can use maybe like curly hair, long hair. We can use short hair and see how that looks. I don't really like that as much. We could do, what's long hair look like? There we go. Let's use long hair. All right, awesome. Then weapon, of course, we can change the weapon. Let's go to weapon over here. Let's find another weapon. Maybe the axe might be a cool weapon to use. There we go. Awesome, perfect. And there's our player 2. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead, hit play on that animation. You should see the same thing. Make sure you're selecting the right animation. There we go. If we hit play, looks like it doesn't love that. Make sure we're selecting the idle one though. And there we go. Awesome. Perfect. Now we just need one more. Let's pause this. Let's go ahead and let's simply select the P2, Control D. Now we have P3. Let's go ahead and move that over. Right there. Awesome. Let's use another weapon. Let's go ahead and find, let's use the hammer maybe. That's kind of cool. Or actually, I think there's a shovel, which might be even better. Yep, let's use the shovel. There we go, perfect. And then let's go ahead, change the hair. We could use, what does curly hair look like? Let's try that. Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and select that animation, hit play, make sure this one works as well. And there we go. Awesome. I like it. Everything seems to be working pretty well. Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead and close these out for P3, P2, and P1. Let's pause the animation. Let's go ahead, hit Control S, and there we go. Looking good so far. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up with some UI now. So we need a back button on the top left, a title, and then a couple buttons for the selecting the players. So let's go ahead and start those. We're going to create a new section for this. So let's go ahead on character select, add child node. We're going to do node 2D, and we're simply going to call this UI. Perfect. Let that load. Once it does, we're going to go ahead, select our UI. We're going to right click, add child node. Let's go ahead and add the label for the title first. Awesome. Let's go ahead and rename this. We can just go ahead and call this header. Label header. Awesome. Let that load. Let's go ahead and extend this all the way across. Make sure it is on top of the blue line. There we go. All right. Awesome. I might make you go up a little bit. There we go. Let's go ahead and center everything up. Perfect. Let's go ahead and just call this choose character. So our player knows what to do. Awesome. Let's give it a new label setting. Let's make the font a lot bigger. We don't have to do 100, but maybe something like 60. Maybe even a little bigger. Do 70. Let's go ahead, outline, make it black. And then let's make the outline, let's see how 20 looks. Might need to be bigger or smaller, maybe a little bigger. How does 30 look? Perfect. Awesome. So there's our choose character label. Perfect. Now we need, of course, some buttons, and luckily we can just use the play button that we had earlier and just adjust it. So let's go ahead and find the play button that's in the start scene. That was in the UI of that one. It is the play button, so I'm going to Control D the play button and just simply drag and drop it into our UI. Let that load, might take a second. Perfect. I'm going to close out this one up here. We don't need these open anymore. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Let's change this button name. Instead of play button, let's call this P1 button. Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and we need to change the actual button name itself over here. So we are going to call this button P1. Perfect. Let that load. All right. Then of course we need to change the label, and I'm actually just going to do a name for this. So let's go ahead and I'm going to call the first character Henry. You can make the first name whatever you want, but I think it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and just drag the button over. Put it somewhere like kind of in the middle. You could go up a little higher. Might need to make it a little smaller though because of the size, so I might actually just select the main P1 right here, and I'm going to go to transform and just shrink it just a tiny bit. Let's just do 0.8. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So you have 0.8, the whole thing. It's usually not the best practice to change the button size this way because it can make the text blurry, but if we're only doing 0.2 smaller, it's not going to be a big deal. I just want to make sure these buttons can all fit next to each other. So let's go ahead, do the P2 button. Let's change this to P2. There we go. Let that load. Once it does, perfect. Now we need to put this here, and like I said earlier, yep, see, they're a little too close to each other. So we could keep this the same size. I might just move the other one over a little bit if you wanted to make it a little smaller, or maybe separate the rocks a little better, which I might do because this looks like it's a little too close. So let's go ahead and shrink them just a little bit more. Instead of 0.8, let's try 0.7. Perfect. We could even go 0.7, 0.5 probably, honestly. Make sure it's kind of centered pretty well. Oh, still doesn't like that. Yep. And let's go there. Awesome. So, all right, that's pretty good for that one. Let's go ahead, minimize that one. The P2 button. Let's go ahead, shrink it as well. let's go to transform. We did 0.7 now. Let's go ahead and make sure it's on the same length. There we go. Perfect, right in the middle. And I'm gonna name this one Alley. Let's go ahead, select it. Let's do Alley. Awesome. Don't forget, we gotta change the button as well. Button P2, make sure we do that there, or it's not gonna know which one we're selecting. Let's go ahead and do the third one now. Control D. I'm gonna close out the one on the top. Change the name here. P3 button. Let's change the name down here. P3 as well. And then the label. Let's change this one. I'm going to call this Sam. Okay, awesome. And now let's simply just drag it over and put it somewhere in the middle. Make sure the distance in between buttons are pretty similar so it doesn't look like it's too messed up. I think that's pretty good. If you wanted to get the exact, you could do that as well, but I think this is going to look pretty good for the kind of game we're making. All right, awesome. Yep, looks good to me. All right, now we just need a simple back button on the top left. That's going to be pretty easy. We can just duplicate this button here, Control D. Close that one, rename it. Let's go ahead and just call this back button. Or to be even more specific, we can do back choose button because we are in the choose page. It's always good to specify things so you don't get confused down the road. Let's change this to back. Awesome. And you know what we could do? We could make this entire button a little smaller for the back button because I don't think it's good to have the same size. So I wonder if we could just delete one of our middle pieces here. Yep, just like that. Go ahead and delete that. Nope, didn't like that. Oh, well, you know why? It's because it's still in back of it. So if we move this, yeah, there we go. See how it kind of looks like that? We're going to put it on the top left here. Let's go ahead and just move that over a little bit. Perfect. And let's take the text, center it up nice like that. Perfect. And then don't forget the button size is still the same, so we need to shrink that. Let's go ahead, take that and just shrink it like that. Awesome. And last but not least, we need to change the name. So button P3 is just going to be button back choose. All right. Let that load. Once it's there, we should be all set. Awesome. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead. We can close up the UI for now. Let's save what we got, Control S. Let's go ahead and actually just hit play on the game. Make sure the start screen is turned off though so we can see and view this screen. Let's hit play and see how this looks. And there we go. Awesome. All right, there's our little scene. Now once we get the script working for the character select, our animations will start. We'll get into that in just a bit. But I think things are looking pretty good so far. Awesome. All right. Don't forget to save. All right, in this section, we're going to create a character selection script. We're going to start off by creating a new script for this. Then we're going to go ahead and add some functions to select the players. And then we're also going to add a function for the back button. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do before creating the script is make a standalone node to represent the actual game. So let's go ahead, right click on main right here, add child node, create a node 2D, and let's just simply rename it game. All right. Awesome. Perfect. We're not going to add anything in this yet. We just need a standalone node to turn on and off. All right, so let's select our main character select node right here. Let's add a script to it. You can leave the name as character_select.gd. Go ahead, hit create. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning. You can of course leave the extends node 2D. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function for _ready. We all know that _ready is basically going to initiate everything at the beginning of the game. So we need to turn on some things at the beginning of the game, starting off with all the animations we made for the characters. Okay, so let's go ahead, open up our player over here. Let's drag and drop animation player. We're going to do a dot play, and then we name them all idle, okay? So we need to add each one of them here. So let's do the player 2 one now. Drag and drop. Dot play. Inside of it, we're just going to put the idle one. Awesome. One more for player 3. Let's go ahead, drag and drop that in there. Perfect. Dot play. And then again, double quotes, idle. Awesome. Perfect. So that's everything we're going to have in our ready function. Now we're going to create another function. We're going to do a button select for one of our players. So this one, actually, before we do the player buttons, we should add that little back button, because if you go back to the 2D view, we have a back button here, and that's a pretty simple one we can do. Let's simply go back into our script. First thing you need to do is find the back button and create a signal for it. So let's go ahead and look for the back button. Should be in the UI. It is back choose button. Open it up. Select the button back choose. Go to node on the right, and then we're going to select pressed. Now make sure it is selecting our character select script, not one of the other ones. Hit connect, and there we go. Awesome. All right, so in here, all we're really going to do is we're going to go ahead and make our main menu node true this time so we can see it, which is going to be basically the start screen, because the main one's already on, so we just need the start screen. Drag and drop that right there. Perfect. Let's do a dot visible, and we're simply going to set that to true. All right. Awesome. Now, of course, we need to turn off the current screen. So what we can do is simply drag and drop the character select node right here. Put it right there. Do a dot visible. And then simply equal that to false this time. All right, perfect. So now when we select the back button, it's going to take us back to the start screen. And when we go back, it'll send us there without having the actual main screen on, which is making it equal false. All right, perfect. All right, so that's the first button we need to do. Now we can jump into actually doing the character select buttons. They're pretty easy. So let's go ahead and start it off with player 1. Let's go ahead, find the UIs. I'm going to close these real quick. We don't need these open for now. So P1 button, select button P1, go to pressed. Make sure it's selecting the character script. Hit select, and there we go. There's our function. Let's remove that pass there and remove some spacing we have. Maybe I'll move some spacing there as well. And there we go. All right, so a couple things we need to add in here. The first one we're going to add is a connection to our global script, which is going to be global dot char chosen. And we're simply going to set that equal to 1 because we are selecting player 1. All right, and if you remember, we have all of our global variables in here, and that's kind of how we're going to manage the game's process. All right, next thing we need to do is set our global dot attack, and we're going to equal that to 1. All right, perfect. We're also going to go ahead and do another global dot mining strength, and we're going to go ahead and equal that to 1 also. All right, perfect. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do another global. We're going to do dot character speed, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to equal that to 1 as well. All right, perfect. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to make the current screen invisible, so the character select screen. So drag and drop it. Dot visible equal false. And then we're also going to want to make the game screen equal true. All right, so game screen, drag and drop that right there. Dot visible equals true. Perfect. All right, awesome. Now, why are we setting all these global variables here? Well, that's because when we want to refresh the game and we don't actually close the game out, these global variables are all still going to be processing. So we kind of have to reset things in case we want to reset the game in game versus just turning the whole thing off and turning it completely back on. So I like to personally just reset the variables on character select. All right, because no matter what we do, if we restart the game, we have to go through that scene. Thus, we need to set these variables. All right. There's many different ways you can do this, but I just think it's pretty efficient to do this way. All right. Awesome. Let's do the next character. So we have the P1 pressed. Now the next one's going to be pretty similar. We're just going to have to change, of course, which character they're using, which is this one here. So let's go ahead. Let's find that button. We already did the P1 button. let's do the P2 button. Find button P2. Select pressed. Make sure it's selecting character select script. There we go. There it is. And what we can simply do is copy this here, paste it right here, and simply change that character chosen from 1 to 2. All right, awesome. And that's it. Now, if you wanted to maybe give certain characters better attack or better speed than other characters, you could totally switch these values around here as well. But for the sake of things, I'm just going to keep it all the same. All right, so that's P2. Let's do P3 now. Let's open that up, find the button, select pressed, make sure it's connecting to the right script, hit connect, and there we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead, copy what's above, and simply paste it right here. Perfect. Change the character chosen from 2 to 3. Awesome. All right, go ahead, save that. Perfect. All right, so far so good. Make sure you got all that in there, and you should be set. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the game scene UI. We're going to start off by creating a new UI node for the game scene. Then we're going to go ahead and add a health bar, XP bar, and current weapon image. Then we're also going to go ahead and create a menu button that opens up a page to upgrade your player's stats. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and go to the 2D view. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to deselect the character select right here so we don't see it. All right, so we have our screen here. So we need to add a couple things. We need to add a health bar, XP bar, which weapon we want to select or is currently selected, and then also a menu button on the top right. All right, so let's go ahead and start doing that. We're going to right click on the game scene. We're going to go ahead, create a node 2D. All right, now we're going to go ahead and just call this UI, which will hold all of our UI in here. Let's let that load. Once it does, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and do the health bar and also the XP bar first, which will be on the top left right over here. So let's go ahead and right click, add child node. We're going to create another node 2D. We're going to call this health bar. Awesome. All right, in the health bar, we're going to need a couple things. First thing we're going to need is an actual heart indicating that it's for the health. So let's go ahead, right click on it, add child node. We're going to add a sprite 2D. All right, let's go ahead and find a heart we can use. I think there should be one in the UI section. If we scroll down, there's a little heart, expression_love.png. We can use that to signify this is for health. Awesome. This might be a little small. We might need to make it bigger. So let's go ahead, go to the inspector of it, transform, scale. Let's see how 3 looks. Might still need to be bigger. Let's try 6. That looks pretty good to me. Awesome. It's also a little blurry. Let's go ahead and go to texture, change the filter from inherit to nearest, and there we go. Awesome. I'm also going to go ahead and move it a little bit over here and a little bit down so it's not too close to the corners of the screen. Be a little bit over, a little bit down. Awesome. All right, perfect. So that's going to be our actual heart, so we can go ahead and just call this heart. Perfect. Now we need the actual XP bar, and there should be a bar right over here. So let's go ahead, right click on it. Actually, we can just duplicate this thing here so we don't have to resize everything. Control D. Let's go ahead and we're just going to call this H1, or actually H0 for empty. So okay, there we go. H0. Let's go ahead and find that. You should see these green bars. There's green here. There should be a blue bar. There's a red one right over here as well. We're going to use this empty one here for the first one. There we go. Let's go ahead and move that over. Zoom in a little bit, lower it down just a bit. Just want to kind of center it up. Awesome. All right, so this is the current H0 for empty. We need to control D though. Let's go ahead and I'm going to use not the first one. I'm going to use the second one right here. There we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead, control D. For H2, let's use the halfway one. There we go. And let's go ahead and use Control D. There we go. Let's use the almost full one, this one here, number 4 for H3. And then we could go ahead and just use 6 for the full heart one. Control D, just like that. Awesome. Let's see how that looks if we select away and we turn off the first one, we lose a little bit of health. The second one, a little bit more. Third one, a little bit more, and then all of it. Awesome. Now, this is up to you. You can do this whichever way you want. You could have started with the other one if you wanted to. I think it looks kind of pretty good like this though, to be honest, but it's up to you however you want to do it. All right, awesome. So there's our health bar, perfect. So now we need to do one for the XP bar. So let's go ahead and we're gonna add that. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna simply just duplicate this entire health bar, Control D, change the name of it, and just call it XP bar. Let that load. Awesome. All right, instead of heart, we're not going to need that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that there. Hit OK. We're actually going to add a label to this because we need to signify what level our character is at. So we're going to right click, add child node. I'm going to do a label here. All right, let's move this whole thing down just a little bit so it's not on top of the health one. So I'm going to move it, let's say there. All right, awesome. Now this label though, we're going to go ahead and center it up with the text. I'm going to do something like this. Let's go ahead and we're just going to start off with L1. So L1. We're also going to have the horizontal alignment to the right. We can center this as well. There we go. We can go ahead and make this a little bigger. So let's go to label settings, new label settings, select that. Font, let's go ahead and let's make this 40, might be too big, might be okay. Maybe a little smaller, let's try 35. Perfect. All right, we also want to go ahead, give it an outline. Let's go ahead and give it black outline, there we go. Let's give it a 15 boldness of it. Perfect, could do a little bit more if you want to. I might do 17. There we go. All right. Next up, we need to make it go a little bit longer over here on the left. I think I'm going to max out our level at 99. So as long as we can get 99 in here, we should be okay. So if I go 99, yep, that should still fit in the screen. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead though, keep it at 1. I'm also going to move it up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. The reason why we did it on the right is, of course, if it extends, it's not going to go into the actual image, which is exactly what we want. All right. Next up, we need to change the color of the bar itself. This one's red, which signifies health. We need to do another one. I want to use blue for mine. You could also use the green one. That's up to you. I think the blue one's going to look the best, though, to be honest. It's going to be this one here. So let's go ahead. Let's select the first one here. And I think we want to use this one. There we go. And then for the next one, H2, we're going to do the midway one. For H3, we're going to go ahead and change this to blue bar, which is almost open. There we go. And then the full bar for number 4. Perfect. All right. That one doesn't look like it's all the way full. I wonder if there is another one. Looks like it's down here for some reason. So go ahead and make sure that one is all the way full, just like that. Awesome. All right. Perfect. So now if we go ahead and disable all these, you're going to see it in action, just like that. Awesome. Now the first one you could change also, because I think there is a little bit of red there. So maybe we'll go ahead, scroll back up, drag and drop the blue bar _00 for that one there. Perfect. Now another cool thing we could do, let's go ahead and reactivate all these things, is let's make the actual text right here match kind of the blue. You could go ahead and select the color and then just use the actual pointer tool we have here to match it if you select it and then select the color, but I'm just going to go ahead and just use like a darker blue that kind of matches. Perfect. Just like that. Awesome. All right, perfect. I like that. Looks pretty good. And remember, you can customize that however you want. You could also go ahead and change the names of these so they're not H's. Maybe I'll put XP for each one too, just so we can signify what it is. Let me do that for each one real quick. XP0, XP1, XP2, XP3, and then last but not least, the XP4. All right. Awesome. Let's go ahead, do that there. Perfect. All right. Looking good so far. I like it. Next up is we need to make the actual menu button and of course which weapon we have. Those are both pretty easy things to do. So let's close these up real quick. All right. Let's do the actual weapon we're using. It's going to be pretty easy. We're just simply going to go ahead and we're going to right click, add child node, create another node 2D, and we're just going to call this current weapon. And we're going to right click on it, add child node, and I'm simply actually going to use a color rect first. Not texture rect, make sure it's a color rect. If you end up making a node and you don't want to delete it, you can simply right click. You can go to change type, and there you go. You could do it from here as well. Awesome. So the color rect is nice. It's just a little square we can use, which is nice for 2D games, because if we need to add some simple little pixelated thing, we can do that pretty easily. So this is going to be the box that we're going to show our weapon. So I'm going to change the color. The outline color I want to make black, so we can do that. And I'm going to simply zoom in a little bit. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's go to layout, transform, scale, and let's do 3 and see how that looks. Might be too big, might be too small. Yeah, it looks a little too big. Yeah, let's try 2. Awesome. Just like that. Perfect. Looking good. Maybe a little bigger. Maybe like 2.2. Yeah, I like that better. All right, 2.2. Looks pretty good to me. Put it a little closer to the side. Yeah. All right. So let's call this texture rectangle back, just because we know it's the back color. Awesome. Then what we want to do, let's just duplicate this real quick. And let's call this front. There we go. Let that load. Select it. And let's change the color. Now for this, I want to do kind of like a sand color, kind of like a wood color that we've been using. Something pretty simple. Let's see. We might need more yellow for that. It's up to you. You can customize it however you want. But let's go ahead now and shrink it so we can see it with the outline. Let's go ahead, layout, transform, and let's just shrink this to 2 now. Might need to be smaller or bigger, but let's see. Yeah, you might need to be a little smaller. Let's zoom in over here. Again, I just want to put this directly in the center. Might not be bad actually. Maybe a little smaller we could do. So let's do like 1.9 or 1.8. 1.8. Let's go ahead and do that. Might still be a little too big, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, it's a little big, but if you want, we could try like 5 after that. Yeah, it looks better. All right. Perfect. All right, perfect. And again, we can make this a little darker if we wanted to. That's up to you. I want it to be kind of like a wood color. Awesome. All right. Perfect. So now that we have that there, awesome. Now we need the actual weapons we have in here. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node. Let's do a sprite 2D. And what we're going to do is we give this a weapon. I'm just going to call this pick for pickaxe, because every player is going to have a pickaxe, but the weapons are going to be different. Let's go ahead and find the pickaxe. Here it is. Drag and drop it into here. And let's go ahead, move that right there. We need to make this clearly a lot bigger. Let's go ahead, transform, scale, let's do 3. Definitely bigger. Let's do 6. Too big. 5 maybe. That might be pretty good, to be honest. That looks pretty good to me. All right. And of course, we need to make it a little more clear. So let's go ahead, nearest. There we go. Let's click away and see how that looks. Perfect. Awesome. So that is good for the pickaxe. Let's Control D, duplicate that. Let's do a sword now for this one. Let that load. There we go. Let's find sword. Drag and drop sword in. Perfect. And you can see it better if we make that invisible. Awesome. Let's go ahead, Control D. Let's do shovel now. Let that load. Awesome. Drag and drop the shovel in. Perfect. Control D. And this one's going to be axe. Let's go ahead, scroll up, drag and drop the axe in, and there we go. Awesome. So now you can look at each one. We got the axe. Awesome. We got the shovel. We got the sword and the pickaxe. Perfect. And again, when we select our characters and then change our weapons to the pickaxe and back to our main weapon, we can see these change as well. All right, awesome. Now next thing we need to do is of course the menu part. So let's create a button for that first, and then we can create the actual menu page. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and close up the current weapon. Let's go ahead, right click on UI, add child node. We're gonna call this, well, first off, we need to create a node 2D. Then we can go ahead and rename it. We'll call it menu button. Awesome. Let that load. There we go. All right, menu button. This can be pretty similar to what we've made in the past with our buttons. So to be honest, we could also just take one of our buttons from character or even start screen. I'm going to take the start screen button. It's going to be in UI. Let's go ahead. Oopsie. Find that button, play button. I'm just going to go ahead and just copy the whole button. Actually, it might be easier. Control D. Simply drag and drop play button 2 that we created into our new UI. Let that load. There we go. And I'm simply going to go ahead, close this stuff out over here. Awesome. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and just remove our menu button and just recreate it for that one. So I'm going to delete that. Hit OK. Let that delete. Perfect. Rename this one. Instead of play button, we're just going to do menu button. Awesome. Let that load. Perfect. All right. So for menu button, can do a couple things. One, we don't need it to be this big. So let's go ahead and remove one of the middle sections. So I'm going to remove that one there. Delete that. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move this over. Make sure it is still connected just like how we had it before. Might need to readjust it. Whoops. I'm going to Control Z so I get back to that part. Still doesn't like that. Not good. Let's zoom it down a little bit. Make sure it matches perfectly. I think it does now. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and change the text. Instead of play, we're just going to say menu. We can shrink the box a little bit. Perfect. Looks good to me. And then of course, we need to fix this box as well because this is going to be the actual darkening of the box. Make sure it is on top of it perfectly. Perfect. And of course, we're going to rechange this name. So button menu is what we're going to change it to. There we go. Awesome. Let that load. Perfect. All right, so now we have our menu button. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just move our menu button on the top right. And I'm going to put it like right there. Awesome. All right, perfect. Looking good so far. Go ahead and save what you got. All right, let's continue and wrap this up. So now we're going to go ahead and make the menu. Let's go ahead and create a new section for this. So we're going to right click on UI, add child node, node 2D. Now we're just going to call this menu. Let that load. Perfect. All right, the first thing we're going to add to the menu is going to be a panel that darkens out the outside screen. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node, panel. All right, let's go ahead and stretch this out to the entire screen. Just like that. Zoom into the corners, make sure it is connecting. It should be, I think so. There we go. Awesome. Perfect. All right, next thing we need to do is we need to make the actual screen that's going to have all of our buttons on it. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node. We're going to add another color rect. Let's go ahead and make this black for the outline. I'm going to rename it back. Let that load. Awesome. And I'm simply going to go ahead and first stretch it out to how big I want the screen to be. Don't want it to be too big, but just enough so we can have all of our buttons and text on it. So maybe something like this, maybe a little bigger on the bottom. Awesome. Let's go ahead now and center this up in the middle. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be pretty close. I think that should look pretty good. Awesome. All right. Now we need the inside square. Let me move it up a little bit. I think it's not perfectly centered. There we go. All right. Now we need the actual center area. And luckily we can use a sprite for that. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node, sprite 2D. All right. We can just call this front. Let that load. All right. For front, this is going to be inside the UI folder, inside the 9-slice box white. It's going to have a simple square we can use, which matches our button color. Drag and drop that into there. Awesome. Let's go ahead and scale this a little bigger. Change the scale. Let's do 6 for now. We can also stretch it out. Looks like it's still a little small. I might go ahead and just use the pointer tool and then just stretch it out like this. Perfect. All right, now we just want to make it kind of match the size of everything else. So let's go ahead. Let's do something like that. Perfect. And then something like there. Awesome. All right, perfect. Remember, you can customize this however you want. I just think this looks pretty good. All right, let's continue. Now we need the, of course, back button right here and then a quit button right here, and we can use the same button we have over here. So let's go ahead and let's just take that button, Control D. Let's just drag and drop it right inside of our menu. Let that load. Let's rename this back game button. Awesome, let that load. Perfect. So now we need to simply go ahead, take that button. We're gonna drag it over. Let's put it somewhere pretty close, not too close though. I'm gonna put it right there. Let's change the text. Let's call it back. Awesome. Let's go ahead and change the button name as well. Let's just say game back for this. Perfect. Awesome. Let that load. Perfect. So now we have the back button for it. Now we need, of course, the quit game button. So let's go ahead, Control D on this. Let's rename this. I'm just going to say quit game button. Let that load. Awesome. Let's move it over a little bit, which will be right about, I think it's going to be right, oopsie. It's on the same line. I'm going to select it again. Where's that little arrow? There it is. Just want it to be pretty similar. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just close enough. And I think that's perfect. Awesome. All right, select label. Let's just say quit here so we know this is the quit button. Awesome. Don't forget to change the name of the actual button itself. So button game quit we could do. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Now we need is a couple buttons and a title for this page. So let's go ahead. I'm going to simply go ahead inside the menu, right click, add child node. Let's create a label. Let's just call this label title. And you know what? Instead of a title, I think we can kind of assume this is the menu, so we don't need that, but we do need something that tracks how many points we have. So we could go ahead and just do label. We could say label point numbers. All right, let that load. There we go. Now let's go ahead and say level points. And we're going to give it a colon and a 0 for starting off. All right, let's go ahead and put this somewhere in the center, like right here. Let's go ahead, give it a new setting. Let's make it pretty big, but not too big. Let's try 30, probably bigger than that. Let's do 50. There we go. And then let's go ahead, give it an outline. I'm going to give it a thickness of, let's do 20. Change it to black, might be too thick, but let's see. It looks pretty good. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and put this somewhere in the center. To make sure it's perfectly centered, we can use this tool here and simply go ahead and put it on the lines there and the line here. And what we can simply do is align everything in the center, just like that. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. I like it. Now we need the actual buttons to use our points. So let's go ahead and create those as well. These buttons are going to be a little bigger than our current ones, but we can still use the same one that we have. So let's go ahead and use one of our buttons we have, Control D. All right. So let's go ahead and name this button something new. Let's call it attack button U for upgrade. All right, then what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and take that button. Let's put it somewhere right below, like right here. We just need to be able to fit 3 of these, so I think that'll still work. Be a little lower. There we go. All right, then we need to go inside of it, make it a little bigger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm simply gonna make this, I'm gonna move this over just so we can fit some more length in it. Control D. Again, I'm going to move this over. Might need to do 3 of these actually, so let's do 1 here. Control D. And another, oops, make sure it stays on the same line. And then we need that corner piece. We just need to move that over there. Awesome. And I think that should be good. I think that's a pretty good size to the button. Let's go ahead and move this whole thing a little bit. I'm going to move it pretty centered. Perfect. All right, now we need to change some things inside of it. First, the actual text. We might need to make this text a little smaller. Let's see. I'm going to do attack power. And I'm going to drag that over. There we go. Perfect. Select away, see how that looks. Perfect. Awesome. I like it. All right, attack power. Perfect. Now we need to rename the actual button. So we're going to go ahead, get rid of this stuff here. So we're going to call it button attack upgrade. Awesome. That's going to be good for that one. Perfect. Now let's go ahead, let's duplicate that. Let's lower it down a little bit. Perfect. This one is going to be for the mining strength. So let's go ahead and just change attack to mining. Get rid of the 2 at the end. There we go. It should say mining button U. Awesome. Let's go ahead and change the text inside of it. Let's go ahead and do mining strength. There we go. Let's center the text up. Perfect. Awesome. Change the actual button here. We're just going to do mining upgrade instead of attack upgrade. So mining. Perfect. Let that load. Awesome. All right, one more. Let's go ahead, Control D. All All right, this one here is going to be for the player speed, so we can just say speed. Get rid of the 2 at the end. Perfect. Let that load. Awesome. All right, let's move the whole thing down a little bit. Make sure it's pretty similar to the one above it. Looks pretty good to me, maybe a little higher. There we go. Awesome. All right, then of course, go into the label. Let's go ahead and just say player speed. Perfect. Text looks pretty centered as well. Maybe a little bit more to the right. There we go. Change the actual name of the button right here. Instead of mining, we're just going to say speed. Let that load. Awesome, perfect. All right, there's our buttons. So now we just need one more thing, and that's the lock buttons, and that's going to be pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and create a new node for that. We're going to go ahead on menu, add child node, node 2D, and I'm simply going to call this button locks. These button locks are only going to be active when we have a points of 0, okay? And luckily we can just duplicate all our buttons and put them inside of it. So for the attack button, Control D, I'm simply going to drag and drop this attack button U2 inside of button locks. And all I'm really going to do is just open it up, change the name of the button. So I can just do button attack L for lock. And then we can just change the color of all the sprites we have for the box itself, which should be all of these. So you can select the top one, hold down shift, select the bottom one, go ahead, go to visibility, go to modulate, and go ahead and just move this over to all the way red. And there we go. It looks like you can't select it now. Perfect. So let's do that for each one. So we have the attack button one. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do the mining one. Control D, drag and drop the new created one into button locks. Let that load. Open that up. Remember to change the button name. Just add an L at the end. Perfect. Once we do that, let's go ahead, select the sprites. Let's go over to visibility, select modulate, drag it all over to red, and there we go. Perfect. One more. Let's go ahead, select the speed button U, Control D, drag and drop it into button locks. There we go. Open it up, add an L to the actual button name. Perfect. Looks like I added an L in a funny spot. There we go. Let's add it to the end. Just like that. Let that load. Awesome. Let's change all the colors. Visibility. Modulate. Let's go ahead, make it red, and there we go. Perfect. So now what we can have here is a lock system. So basically, if we don't have enough points, we're going to have a piece of code that makes this active. So we're not going to be able to just infinitely upgrade our attack power, mining power, or player speed if we don't have enough points. All right, awesome. And you can see that if we just go ahead and disable this, you can see the real buttons, and then if we enable it, you can see the lock buttons. Perfect. Awesome. Let's close that up as well. Let's go ahead, zoom out a little bit, and also close up the menu as well. And there we go. Awesome. All right, don't forget to save. I really hope you're enjoying this course, but if you would like to continue it, you will have to become a student at Red Fools Academy. On first sign up, you will get a free 7 days back guarantee. Once a member, you will have full access to not only this course, but all of our courses in game, app, and website development. On top of that, you will get full support from the Red Fools Studio team. A link will be attached to the description, and you can also use this URL as seen below. See you in the lectures. In this project, we're going to go ahead and create a tower defense game. You will learn how to create 3 different tower types. On top of that, you will learn how to drag and drop those towers on platforms to help defend against enemies. Lastly, you will learn how to create an enemy wave generator that will continuously spawn enemies on a path. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, in this section, we're going to go ahead and set up our tower defense game. We're going to start off by creating a new project. Then we're going to go ahead and navigate to where we can download the free assets we're going to be using for this game. Then we're going to go ahead and import those assets into our new game's art folder. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and create our new project. On the top left, we're going to select create. We're going to give it a name. I'm going to call this Tower Defense Game. Go ahead, create and edit. Alright, once your project has opened up, let's go ahead and select the 2D view up here. Perfect. Zoom out a little bit. Let's create that new folder that's going to hold all of our art. Let's right click over here, create new folder. Let's call this art. There we go. Awesome. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and download the free assets we're going to be using for this game. I found a really good one. This one's called Tower Defense Top Down. It's going to be located at kenny.nl/assets/Tower Defense Top Down. I'm going to add this link in the description. This assets pack is going to have everything we need for our top-down tower defense game. It's going to have a bunch of different towers, a bunch of different bullet types, tile sets, and enemies. Once you're here, go ahead and select this download button. It's going to ask you if you want to donate or not. If you don't, simply select this and it will go ahead and start downloading. Alright, once your download's completed, you should have Kenny Tower Defense Top-Down.zip right here. Go ahead, right click it and select extract all. It might take a second or two, but once that extraction is done, you're going to have the one without the zip right here. And what you're going to want to do is simply take it and just drag and drop it into your art folder in your project. Alright, let that load, might take a second or two. Once it's in there, we just want to double check it's in the art folder. We might have to move it. Sometimes it puts it outside of it, so just simply take it and drag and drop it into your art folder. Might take a second to load, it's a pretty big file. Let that finish. And there we go, awesome. Now if you open up your art folder, you should see it in here as well with all the assets. All right, perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. All right, in this section, we're going to do some planning for our tower defense game. We're going to start off by inspecting a visual of the project goal. Then we're going to go ahead and review all the possible scripts that will be needed to make the game work. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started on our planning. This top portion here is going to be the visual of the game we're going to be creating. This middle image here is going to be our start screen. As seen, we're going to have a nice background here, which is going to be a desert background in the game. We're also going to go ahead and have this road going up here and then to the right. This is where all the enemies are going to be walking. And once they get to the right, it will end the game and say you lose. Versus if you end up defeating all the enemies, then you're going to win the game. Now we can defend this road simply by placing towers on these square blocks here, which are going to be our platforms. We can then have enough coins and select these little towers here to place them on these square blocks. There's going to be three different types of towers. A tower 1, which is going to be a normal bullet tower. Then we're also going to have a tower 2, which is a laser zap tower. We're also going to have a tower 3, which is a bank money tower that gives us a little bit of extra money every so often. All right. Now we can also upgrade our towers. So once we place one and then select it, we're going to get this image here on the left, where then we can upgrade our level 1 towers to level 2 or even level 3. All right. Now these are going to be locked, of course, until you have enough money and the appropriate upgrade before. All right. So then again, you can hit back to close that and you'll be back to the start screen here. Awesome. Now down below, I have a couple scripts here that are going to make this game work. Starting off with the main script here on the left. This main script is going to handle the in-game values, process of creating new towers, and all the enemy waves. Then we're also going to have our tower script, which is going to handle the tower levels, tower placement, and creating tower projectiles. Then we're going to have some scripts for the projectiles, starting with the bullet, which is going to handle all the logic of the bullets for tower 1. We're going to have zap laser script, which is going to handle all the logic for the zap lasers for tower 2. And also the bank money script, which is going to handle all the logic for the money animation of tower 3. Last but not least, we're also going to have a script that's going to handle the enemy movement and the enemy death once the health runs out. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the main node for our tower defense game. We're going to start off creating a main node for the main scene. Then we're going to add some tile map layers to create the battleground. Then we're going to add a path 2D for the enemies to follow. Then we're going to add 2 timers, one for the waves and the other for the enemies. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's create the main node first. On the left, select 2D scene. Let's go ahead and rename this main. Perfect. All right, in main, we're going to add a couple things for the background now. We're going to have a nice desert background, and then we're going to have a couple dirt patches that we can place the towers on. We're also going to have a nice little road where the enemies are going to follow, okay? All right, let's get started. Right-click on main. Let's create a node 2D first. That's going to hold all of our backgrounds. We're going to call this background. Perfect. Inside of our background, let's add child node, and we're going to add a tile map layer. All right, first tile map layer, let's go ahead, tile set, new tile set. Let's go ahead, open this up, find our tile set, perfect. Make sure you are selecting tile set here, not tile map. We need to drag and drop our tile set, which is going to be the first one right here, tower defense.tilesheet.png. Drag and drop it in, hit yes, and it's going to cut it for you. Awesome. All right, let's select tile map now. All right, now there's a nice little desert scene we can use, which is this one right here. So let's use the square tool and then highlight everything inside of it, not the corner pieces. All right, make sure you have the paint tool on. There we go. Select somewhere in the corner and just simply drag it and just make sure you're covering the entire blue box. All right, perfect. There we go. There's the nice desert background. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead, Control D on this. All right, I'm going to remove what we currently have for it using the eraser tool now, just so we're not stacking. All right, now this one's going to be a dirt patch, so let's go ahead and just call this dirt. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and create a simple dirt patch, and then we're going to duplicate it, so we only need to create it one time. Let's start with this one here. I'm going to simply grab a corner piece and make sure we're using the right tool. And I'm going to put one right here. I'm going to then highlight the middle ones here, and I'm simply going to drag that over. Let's do about that far. Add a corner piece, highlight the middles, go down as far as you want. I'm going to do something like there. Grab that one there, perfect. Lower ones here, just like that. Corner piece, oops, put it in the right spot, and then upper spots, just like that, perfect. All right, now let's highlight the middle like we did with the background and simply put that in there. Awesome. All right, perfect. Now what we can do also is we can simply just select the tile map dirt, Control D, and I'm just going to simply move it up, and I'm going to put one, let's put one like right here, Control D, and I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to put the road there, so I'm going to have this one a little bit lower but in between. All right, somewhere like there. Perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. Now we need to make the actual road, so let's go ahead, Control D again, and I'm going to put this one back in the same spot it was, so we can go to transform, and we can put the location X for 0, Y for 0 also. All right, let's go ahead and remove what's on this one currently. Oops. Make sure you're selecting the right tools. There we go. All right, deleted everything on there, perfect. Now let's go ahead and make the actual road. I'm going to use the road, which is going to be this thing here. Let's go ahead and highlight what we need. We're not going to need a beginning corner piece, but we are going to need this one here. So let's select it. And let's start from somewhere about here. Oop, too close, I think. There we go. I'm going to go up there. And we're going to go all the way up here. There we go. I'm going to make a corner piece here. I'm going to make a side piece going all the way across now. Going into it like that. Perfect. Awesome. Looks like there's a little bit of an issue with these ones for some reason. Make sure we have the right one on it. think it should be a lower one going to upper for there. Make sure we have it selected on the right spot. I think it should be here. Yep. Here, there we go. Fixed it. Awesome. All right, now we need the other side. Let's go ahead and do that. Start with this one here and make it similarly close. So I think that's too far for that one. Can make it a little closer. There we go. Make sure we are going up. Ooh, make sure you're starting on the right one. There's one more up, I think. There we go. I think that's pretty good for how thick we need it to be. Awesome. Let's go ahead and do this one now, maybe going across and going all the way across. Perfect. We need a piece for that. There should be one somewhere. Let's find a connector piece. I wonder if we can find one of those. If not, I think we can just use a square one for the middle, but we'll see how to do that in just a second. Let's fill it out. All right, let's go ahead and start from the top corner and go all the way down just like that. Perfect. And from this corner, we're gonna go all the way over just like that and add a simple corner piece there. Again, we might need to find one that fits better, but I think that'll be okay for what we're making. All right, we'll just keep it for now. Now, if you want to also, you can remove the side pieces there. We don't need those. Perfect. Awesome. All right, and there's our map. Looking good so far. We can change the name. Instead of dirt, we can just call this road. Just like that. Perfect. All right, save what you got so far. It's gonna ask you to save the scene. Go ahead. And looking good. All right, let's continue. Now we need to create our path 2D. Pretty simple. I'm going to close out the background for now. Right click on main node, type in path. You should see path 2D. Go ahead and select that. Awesome. All right, so our path 2D is pretty cool. This kind of just helps us create a path for things to follow. So let's go ahead and put the starting point somewhere first. I'm going to put the starting point right over here at the bottom. So make sure you can move it over. We might need to set a point first actually. So let's go ahead and go to points. It should be in here. There we go, add element. All right, so the first point is at 0, 0. We don't want to do that. We want to put it somewhere a little bit before it. So if I can just take that point, I might need to use this thing here. There we go. I'm going to put our starting point right here. So we're going to start outside of the screen basically. Then we need to add another point. This point here, I'm going to put right up here. Perfect. Make sure it's pretty straight. Put it somewhere right there. Awesome. We want to put it on the same X value we can, which I think it is. You can see X 570, 570. Awesome. Let's go ahead and add another one now. Simply take that point and put it over here. Awesome. All right, looking good. Perfect. So now that we have our path 2D, that's what our enemies are going to follow along. You can make this however you wanted. You could also have changed the map too. That's up to you. I just think this works pretty good for the kind of game we're making. All right. Now we need 2 timers. Let's go ahead, right click on main, add child node. We're going to need a timer. This one here, we're going to use for the wave timer. So we can go ahead, timer wave. Let that load. All right. Now the wave timer, we do want to be a one shot, so go ahead and select that. But everything else you can keep the same. Let's go ahead and create another timer now. Select that. All right, this one here is going to be our enemy timer. So timer enemy. Perfect. And I don't think we're going to need to add anything for this. We can just keep everything as the same for now. All right, awesome. All right, looking good for the main scene. Go ahead and save. There you go. All right, in this section, we're going to create the main UI. We're going to start off creating a new UI node for the main scene. Then we're going to add some buttons for the towers you can purchase. Then we're going to add a UN and game over screen with a restart button. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating the UI. All right, first thing we need to do is create a main node for that. Let's right click on main, add child node, create a node 2D. Let's go ahead and rename this UI. Awesome. All right, now let that load. Perfect. All right, first thing we're gonna do is create some tower spawnings. So let's go ahead and right click, add child node, and we're gonna create a texture button for this, which all it is basically a button in the form of the texture that we give it. So let's go ahead and find one of our tanks in PNG. Let's go to default size. Let's go ahead and scroll all the way down. We want a green little tank that's on top of a tower. Let's see if we can find that. It should be a little lower. You can use whichever ones you want as well. It's up to you, but I want to use this nice green one. So let's take that guy, put him right here. Let's just do normal for now. There we go. Awesome. And you can make this bigger if you want. I'm gonna make it a little bigger. Let's go to, where is this side? Layout, yep, layout. And then go to transform. And let's go ahead and increase this to 2. You might need to do 1.5. Yep, that's a little big. Let's do 1.5. All right, perfect. I'm gonna lower this down a little bit. I do wanna keep it on this left side, but not that high. So let's do right here. Awesome. Let's go ahead and rename this. So instead of texture button, we're just going to call this texture button tower 1. Okay. Let that load. Perfect. Let's go ahead and create the next one now. Control D. Let's lower it down a little bit. Let's change it to the red one now. This is going to be our laser cannon one. Keep it at normal. Perfect. Let's Control D again. Oops. Make sure to select it here. Control D. Let's lower it down. Now this one's going to be our bank tower that gives us a little extra money. So we're going to make this kind of our own. I want to find the base of a tower first, and then we'll place a money symbol on top of it. So this little one right here, tower defense tile 181. I'm going to take that, drag and drop it into there, keep it at normal. Awesome. And then if you keep scrolling down a little bit, you should see some images here of numbers and a $sign. We want to use that $sign. Let's go ahead and before we create it, let's right click on our texture button, add child node. I'm going to add a sprite 2D. Drag and drop that $sign there. Perfect. And I'm simply just going to put this right in the middle. Doesn't need to be perfect, but pretty close. Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and just change its color, visibility, to yellow. All right, awesome. And to make it a little more clear, we can go to texture, change filter to nearest. And there we go. Awesome. Perfect. So now we have a bank tower, we have a laser tower, and we have a regular tower. Okay, awesome. All right, next thing we need to do is add a label for the cache. Let's right click on UI. Let's do label. All right, let's stretch out this label a little bit. I'm going to stretch it out to there. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just say cache colon space, put 0 there for now. Let's go ahead, make it a little bigger, new settings. Let's go ahead, make the font, let's do 30 for this. There we go. And maybe give it a little outline. Let's make the outline 15. That's a little too dark, I think. Let's try 12. Perfect. Awesome. So that's going to show our current cache. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead. Let's continue. So now that we got our UIs, that's pretty good. We're also going to go ahead and need some text for the screens that are going to pop up if we win or lose. So let's go ahead and right click on UI, add child node. We're going to make these out of a panel actually. And we'll call this panel win. All right, let's stretch this panel win out. Stretch it out to the blue. I'm going to zoom in the corner to make sure we're covering it correctly. Perfect. All right, so the win one, I don't want it to be darkened out. Let's make the visibility completely invisible. Perfect. Let's right click, add child node. Let's add a label to this to give a UN basically at the beginning or right in the middle. Let's go ahead and just say UN exclamation point. Let's center this up. There we go. Give it a new label setting. Font, let's make this pretty big. Let's try 100. Awesome. Let's go ahead and give it, well, where is that text? Oops, I think it's somewhere up there. Title, map layer, you win. Interesting. Don't know where it is. Let's move it up real quick. Maybe it's hidden behind the background or something. No, it just doesn't have any text in it. It's super weird. Interesting. Maybe we made it too big. Let's try 850. Still doesn't like it. Very strange. Let's delete that label. Let that load. Right click, add child node. Label again. Looks like it's over here. Does it have text in it? Still looks a little invisible. Oh, you know why it's doing that? It's because we set the background to modulate. We need to do self-modulate. So select this. Go ahead. See how we did modulate? That's going to make everything and everything inside of it. So let's make this whole. And then select the self-modulate and make that invisible. Perfect. Then we can still have our text there. All right. All right. Let's go ahead, stretch this out to the same size we had the other one at. Let's go ahead, make it about that big. Then let's just say you win. Exclamation point. Let's center it up. Awesome. Give it a label setting. Font, let's change that to 100 like we did earlier. Maybe even a little bigger, honestly. Could do 120. Let's go ahead, give it an outline. I'm gonna make the size of the outline, let's do 40. Change it to black. I need to make it a little smaller. Looks pretty good actually. Awesome. Perfect. All right, and then we need to add a button for this. So let's go ahead, right click, add child node. Let's add a simple button. All right, we got our button over there. Let's drag that over here. Let's go ahead, let's make this button a little bigger. Not too big, just enough where it's centered in between the UN text and the road. All right, let's go ahead and right click on it, add child node. Let's give it a label also. And I'm simply going to stretch it out to the same size as the button. There we go. Let's just say play again, question mark. Let's center that up a little bit. Awesome. You can give it a new setting, make it a little bigger, do 20, maybe a little bigger than that. Let's do 22. Perfect. Keep the color white. Outline, maybe give it a black outline, make it look a little nicer. Black outline of 8. There we go. Awesome. If you wanted to, you could give the button a little bit more of a color, but I kind of like it like that. I guess we could add just a color rectangle. Let's add a color rectangle. Awesome. Stretch out this same size as that. Let's place the label below it so we can still see the text. There we go. It's a little bright. I'm going to make this green. Not too green though, a little darker green. Maybe a little brighter. Awesome. I want to make another color rect actually, just because I like to have a little bit of a border on these things. So let's select that one there. And I want to make it a little smaller, or we could just make the back one a little bigger, just to give it a nice little black background. Not too big, but just enough where it looks significant. Perfect. Awesome. All right, then that kind of matches the rest of the theme we got going on here. All right, perfect. So there's our play again. There's our you win. All right, so that's going to be the win panel. So now we just need to make one that's the opposite. So let's go ahead, Control D, panel, game over. There we go. Let that change its name. And for the text, let's say you lose. You lose, frowny face. I'm going to disable the win one so we can see this a little better. And I am going to change the color of this to red. There we go, you lose. I'm going to make the whole thing a little darker. So we can go to the visibility of this and not make it completely invisible, but not completely dark either. Maybe like that much. Awesome. We can keep the play again, and I think we should be set. We might need to change the names of these buttons though to play again. There we go. Keep that there, and we can change the other one, and we should be set. Let's change the name of this one here as well. Perfect. Let that load. Awesome. All right, perfect. Our scene is coming together. I'm going to go ahead and turn off both these now also. There we go. So we have the panel win off and the panel game over off. Perfect. All right, save what you got so far. Looking good. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the main script. We're going to start off by creating a new script and attaching it to the main scene node. Then we're going to go ahead and add all the variables that will be used for the game. Then we're going to add some functions to create towers, spawn enemies, and win-lose the game. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started creating the main script. So we're going to go ahead and make a new script on our main node right here. Add script, keep it as main.gd. All right, let's go ahead and start from scratch. Get rid of all the things here, keep the extends node. All right, so let's start off with a variable. We're going to start with variable money equal 100. Then we're going to go ahead, create another variable. It's going to be the wave. Make it equal to 0. We're also going to go ahead, we're going to create a variable for mobs underscore left, which are just going to be like our enemies left, equals 0. We're also going to go ahead and create a variable. We're going to call this wave underscore mobs. And we're going to make this equal to an array, all right? Now, we're going to have 5 in the first one, 6 in the next one, 10 in the next one, 20 in the one after that, 40, and then, of course, 0 in the one that is last. All right, awesome. Then we need wave speed, so we're going to do variable wave underscore speed. We're going to make that equal to another array. We're going to do 1, comma 1, comma 0.5, comma 0.5. Well, the first one should be another about 0.5. We can keep this the same, and another 0.3, and then a 100. Okay, awesome. And you can change these over time if you want to change the values. That's completely up to you. All right. Then we're going to go ahead and create another variable, call this instance. We're going to create another variable. This one's going to be for our enemy, which is going to be equal to a preload. Now this enemy does not exist yet, so we're just going to put in a placeholder for this, for res, colon, // enemy dot tscn. All right. All right, well, we're going to keep that for now. It's going to stay red for a little while, but don't worry about that. Let's copy this whole line now, though. We're going to have each of these for each tower we can create as well. We're going to have one for tower, which is going to be our basic tower. And we're just going to call this one tower bullet. All right. Then we're going to have one that we're going to call laser. We're going to call this tower zapper. Then we're going to have the one for bank. And we're just going to call it tower bank. All right. Now again, these aren't going to exist, so they're going to stay red for a while. All right. Next up, we're going to create another variable. This one's going to be for building. So are we currently building? Yes or no. And that's going to be set to false at the beginning of the game. We're also going to create a variable for game 1. We're going to equal that to false at the beginning as well. Same thing for game over. Equal that to false. All right, awesome. Then we need one more variable. This one is going to be a variable for mobs underscore killed. And we're going to always start that off at 0. All right, just like that. Perfect. Make sure you have all those variables down. Don't forget, this is supposed to be red. We're just waiting before we can create those. All right, Save that. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So next we're going to start creating a couple functions. All right, first function we're going to start creating is going to be our ready function, which if you remember, that's everything that starts when the game starts. All right, so we're going to go ahead and initially start our wave timer. So go to the timer wave, drag and drop, dot start. Perfect. All right, and that's all we're going to have in the ready function. We're also going to go ahead and make a process function. So function underscore process. All right, and we're going to go ahead inside of this. We're going to get a colon, a float, and then give it a arrow to avoid. All right, perfect. Inside of this function, we're going to simply set our label, which is our cache label, which is right here, dot text. We're going to make that equal our, in quotation marks, capital C, cache, spacebar, plus string money. All right, perfect. So we got to make sure that equals our money. Awesome. All right, now we're going to have a physics process function. So let's go ahead, do another function here. Underscore physics process. All right, and we're going to go ahead in here. We're going to give it a colon, float again. We're going to give it a arrow to void. All right, I'm going to add a couple enters here so we can make some room. All right, so first thing we're going to do in here is we're going to set if statement, if game1 equals true. Then we're going to go ahead and simply set our panel win page to true. So dot visible equals true. All right, perfect. Now we're going to need one for the game over. So we're going to do another if game over equals true. Then we're simply going to make the panel game over set to true. All right, dot visible equals true. All right, perfect. All right, looking good. Then we're also going to go ahead and we're going to add another if statement here. We're going to say if our wave is equal to 5 and our mobs killed is greater than or equal to 81, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set game1 and we're going to equal that to true. All right, perfect. Awesome. All right. Then while we're at it, let's create one more function. Let's do a simple function called tower underscore built, empty set of parentheses. So we're going to say tower built. We're just simply going to set our building equal that to true. And we're also going to set our money minus equals 25, which is what one of our towers is going to cost. All right, awesome. Now don't forget, it looks like I accidentally placed 2 equals here. Whenever we're setting things, we always have to equal it to 1. All right, the only thing we're equaling it to 2 is the if statements, which, whoopsie, I think I actually had that set. I was just overlooking. All right, perfect. All right, save what you got. Looking good so far. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Let's add a couple more functions. All right, let's go ahead and do a timeout function for our wave. So let's go ahead, add a couple enters there. All right, so this one's going to be on our wave timer timeout. So let's go ahead, select our wave timer right here. We're going to go to node, select timeout, matrix selected to the main script, hit connect. Awesome. Whoops, I'm going to get rid of these. All right, so in here, we're going to set a couple things because when our wave timer times out, we need to make some things happen, such as making our mobs left equal our wave mobs of the array with a value of wave. All right, awesome. Whoopsie, it was wave speeds, not mobs. There we go. Awesome. All right, because that's going to initiate the ones left. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to set our enemy timer now to a dot wait time equal wave speed, again with wave inside of it, just like that. All right, perfect. Awesome. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to initiate the timer to start. So let's go ahead, drag and drop enemy timer in, dot start. Perfect. Awesome. Let's do our enemy timer out. Let's go ahead, add that. So select enemy timer. Go ahead, make sure we're selecting on it, still on wave, so I have to select away and reselect. There we go. Select node, select timeout, add to main. Perfect. All right, now in here we're going to add a couple things. This is all going to determine if the game is still running though. So we're going to say if game over equals false or game 1 equals false. Then we're going to go ahead and say instance equals enemy dot instantiate. It's making me type it because I don't have the other thing set. Is it set in there? It should be, if it allows me to click it. Sometimes spell these wrong. Instantiate. Yep, perfect. Okay. I'm going to instantiate that. Then what we want to do is we want to create it inside of our path 2D. So drag and drop that right there. We're going to do a dot add child. And then within it, we're going to add it our instance. All right, there we go. Perfect. Then we're also going to go ahead and we're going to set our, we're going to set our mobs left minus equals 1 because we created a new one. Awesome. Then we're also going to go ahead, let me add some enters so we can see a little better. Then we're going to add another if statement and say if mobs left are less than or equal to 0. Then we're going to go ahead and do our enemy timer stop dot stop. Then we're going to go ahead and do a wave plus equals 1. Then we're going to do another if wave is less than length, which is LAN, of the wavelength, or wave mobs technically. There we go. Awesome. If it is, then we're going to simply go ahead. We're going to go into our wave timer dot stop. Perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and simply do an else. And we're going to say else if game underscore 1. All right. And we have to equal that to true because we won the game. All right. Perfect. Make sure everything's set correctly. I might need to go backspace there. Oopsie. Oh, make sure else is back. There we go. That's the problem. Awesome. All right. Perfect. Make sure you got all that. Don't forget to save. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this script up. Almost done. Just a couple more functions left. All right. Now we're going to make the actual functions that spawn our towers in. So let's go ahead, scroll towards the bottom, start on a new section. Let's go ahead and select our first tower button, which is button 1 tower. Let's go ahead and make sure we're selecting it. Yep. Go ahead, select pressed. Let's go ahead, hit connect. Awesome. Let's get rid of the spacing. All right. So in this one, we're going to go ahead. First off, we need to say if building equals false and money is greater than or equal to 25. Then we can go ahead and simply say instance equals laser dot instantiate Then we're going to go ahead and we're simply going to say add child instance. All right, perfect. That's going to be the one for tower 1. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other buttons. Let's select button 2, pressed. Make sure it has the same one. There we go. Let's go ahead and just copy exactly what this is here. And the only thing we need to switch out is the laser right here. So let's change that. Let's change that to, oh, this one is laser. The other one's tower. Whoopsie. Yep, this one's for tower. There we go. This one's for laser, and the last one's going to be for bank. All right, so let's select bank, pressed, connect. There we go. Copy this whole thing, paste it in. Simply change out the laser to bank. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Now we just need to do the actual play again button, which is pretty easy. Let's go ahead and select it inside of here. Select our button, play again, pressed, connect. And all we want to do is just reset the game, which we've learned before. All we got to do is use a get tree and then simply do a .reload current scene. All right, perfect. Go ahead, save that. Let that load. Now make sure both these buttons have it, not just the panel win, but we also have to make sure the game over one does. So you might have to go ahead, connect it to pressed, connect. All right, there you go. So now they both should be connected to this one. Awesome. All right, looking good. Go ahead and save. And there you go. I really hope you're enjoying this course, but if you would like to continue it, you will have to become a student at Red Fools Academy. On first sign up, you will get a free 7 days back guarantee. Once a member, you will have full access to not only this course, but all of our courses in game, app, and website development. On top of that, you will get full support from the Red Fools Studio team. A link will be attached to the description, and you can also use this URL as seen below. See you in the lectures!